Chapter 556. In terms of potential and danger level, Scarlet Witch Walter was much more dangerous than Daisy. If she used her chaos magic to the limit when she had a mental breakdown, then the end of the world would be just a matter of a word from her. Fortunately, Roger found the two of them and tricked them into entering Konoha, essentially eliminating the possibility of her complete mental breakdown. Quicksilver Pietro was still alive and well. As for her emotional line that could have appeared on Genjutsu, it didn't even have a chance to appear before Rog eliminated it. In this case, the possibility of Walter having a mental breakdown was infinitely close to zero. After taking a look at Pietro and Walter, Rog re-observed the battle between Medusa and Daisy. Similar to the one-sided battle on Fenrir's side, the battle between Medusa and Daisy also showed signs of one-sided. However, the one who had the advantage now was not Daisy, but Medusa, who was very calm from the beginning to the end. Just looking at the awakened superpower, Medusa was no match for Daisy. But Medusa used practical actions to prove that there was no weak superpower, only weak users. The long burgundy hair that seemed to have a life of its own hit Daisy's body like a sharp blade or a long whip, cutting holes of various sizes on Daisy's close-fitting black combat suit. With a little combat experience, it could be seen that Daisy was completely caught in the rhythm of the battle controlled by Medusa. If Medusa hadn't been controlling the power of the attack, Daisy would have died under Medusa's attack. Looking at Daisy, who was constantly knocked down and struggling to stand up again and again, Rog sighed helplessly. He knew a long time ago that Daisy was a very stubborn person. But he didn't expect Daisy's stubbornness to be so serious to the point that it affected her fighting mentality. Judging from Daisy's current offensive and defensive posture, it was easy to see that her current state of mind had completely collapsed. Now, instead of saying she was fighting to the end, it was more like she was giving up meaninglessly. Her resistance not only didn't have the effect it should have, but it also further widened the gap between her and Medusa. She lost. King Black Bat's voice sounded again. Yeah, I lost. This time, Rog did not insist on his previous opinion and decisively admitted Daisy's failure. If Daisy could remain calm, she might have a chance to turn the tables. However, it was a pity that she did not grasp the only chance to turn the tables and personally destroyed her own hopes of victory. When Daisy was knocked down by Medusa's wine-red hair again, Rog took out his Calamity pistol and fired in their direction. Along with the sound of gunfire, a fireball with a diameter of several meters flew between them like a cannonball, completely isolating them. This was Rog's first and last shot in this battle. Konoha versus the U.S. government, Konoha wins. Rog didn't care about cleaning up the battlefield after the war. After Fenrir returned the tetanus to the Black Bat King, he went to the temporary negotiation room. Nick Fury, Team America Rogers, Winter Soldier Bucky, or Machine Colonel Rhodes, Black Panther T'Challa. In this temporary negotiation room, he saw many familiar faces. Maximus did not appear here. After the battle, King Black Bat took him away from the Earth and promised Rog that Maximus would never appear on the Earth again. According to the original plan, King Black Bat should also take away Daisy in the prophecy. However, this plan completely disappeared after he lost to Rog. How does the mechanical prosthesis feel? It shouldn't be worse than your original hands and feet. Although Nick Fury disguised himself well, Rog could see at a glance that Nick Fury's broken right arm and right leg were replaced with mechanical prostheses. It's just that he doesn't know if he used Hydra's technology or Wakanda's technology. Don't waste time, just say it, what do you want? From the fact that Rog didn't let Konoha's army kill them, Nick Fury knew that Rog must have other plans. Otherwise, they wouldn't have the chance to sit here alive. Not bad, you have the consciousness of a loser. Don't say that I bullied you, this time I only have 2 requirements. First, with the location of Konoha's intelligence agency as the center, all the surrounding blocks belong to Konoha. As for whether you use Konoha to expand or establish a special military zone as an excuse, I only want this area to be completely under Konoha's control. Second, I want the White House and the military to publicly issue a statement supporting Konoha's attack on Wakanda. My requirements are just these two, isn't it very simple? After that, Rog patiently waited for Nick Fury's answer. Strictly speaking, his two requirements are not troublesome, but they are a bit insulting. First of all the blocks near Konoha will be assigned to Konoha, which is basically equivalent to completely ceding these areas to Konoha. The UA is no stranger to this practice of establishing military zones in other countries, because they have always treated other countries like this. It's just that this time, it's their turn. If Rog's first request is a little bit of a slap in the face, then his second request is to put the UA's face on the ground and step on it. Asking the White House and the military to publicly issue a statement supporting Konoha's attack on Wakanda doesn't seem difficult, but in fact, it's a naked murder. Whether it's a country or an underground gang, they all abide by a very simple rule. That is, as the boss, you need to protect your subordinates. Although Wakanda is not a subordinate of the UA, it's one of the countries that supported the New York Agreement, and it's the only country that sent troops to support the UA. Konoha wanted to retaliate against Wakanda, and this was understandable. But if the White House and the military publicly support Konoha's military retaliation, then the meaning is different. As long as this statement is released to the public, it will basically confirm the fact that the UA betrayed its allies and couldn't protect its subordinates. This will be an unprecedented credibility crisis for the UA, who has been trying to become the world's overlord. I can't give you an accurate answer now, and this is not something I can decide. Nick Fury's expression turned extremely ugly. He thought that Roger would at most ask for some resources and power as compensation, just like the last time. But he didn't expect that Rog didn't play by the rules at all. Thinking of this, he unconsciously turned his head and glanced at the current king of Wakanda in the negotiation room. Chapter 557. Konoha is going to attack Wakanda. Regarding Rog's decision, Black Leopard T'Challa wasn't surprised. When he left Wakanda with Wakanda's royal guards, he had considered this possibility. However, he didn't expect that Rog would actually ask the White House and the military to make a public statement. If you want revenge, then come at me, Wakanda is not afraid of any enemy. After leaving these harsh words, T'Challa picked up the Black Leopard helmet on the table and left the temporary negotiation room without looking back. On the surface, leaving after leaving these harsh words was a very unwise behavior. However, he wasn't worried that Rog would attack him at this time. Since Rog proposed to attack Wakanda in front of him, it means that he is safe for the time being. Regarding T'Challa's harsh words and his departure, Rog didn't say anything, ignoring his existence with the most indifferent attitude. When the atmosphere in the negotiation room began to become a little oppressive, he spoke again, "Go and report to the master behind you. You don't need to talk to me about the next thing, Ross will represent Konoha to discuss the details with you." With that, he cast quantum teleportation from his seat and disappeared in an instant, enveloped by a brilliant aurora-like light. Letting Ross represent Konoha in the negotiation was something he decided early on. Although he doesn't put the power of the government and the military in his eyes, this doesn't mean that he will completely ignore them. In some cases, the power of the White House and the military is still very useful. And he also intends to take advantage of this opportunity to insert a nail into the White House and the military. Ross, who once served as the Secretary of State and Air Force Vice Admiral, is a very suitable candidate. He has already convinced Ross before, promising him that Konoha will fully support him to return to the political arena after the victory. As a price, Ross will also completely become the spokesperson of Konoha in the official system, using the power in his hands to escort Konoha. Normally, Ross, who has a military background, is unlikely to agree to Rog's request. However, after experiencing two ups and downs in his life, Ross is no longer the pure military man he used to be. For some things, if you never had them, then you wouldn't be too obsessed with them. However, once you have it, you will never be able to accept the feeling of losing it. It was the same for everything from power and money to gaming rankings. A person who had once held supreme power would not tolerate the sudden loss of all his power. A person who had once ascended to the king rank would not allow himself to fall to the gold rank. Rog gave Ross the opportunity to regain power, but the price was that Ross became Konoha's puppet. After using quantum transmission to return to his office in Konoha's building, Rog picked up the phone and called Dr. Doom, who was far away on the other side of the earth. "I've taken care of everything on my side. How's your god-slaying plan going?" Konoha's attack on Wakanda wasn't just a military retaliation against Black Panther T'Challa. In addition to letting other countries know that there is a price to pay for being enemies with Konoha, Rog also intends to let Konoha receive Wakanda's vibranium resources. Of course, he also doesn't intend to let go of Black Panther god Batet, who has been sheltering the Wakanda royal family. In order to avoid his and Doom's god-slaying plan causing displeasure to Ancient One, Rog explained his plan to Ancient One from the beginning. "Just pay attention to propriety." This was Ancient One's reply after knowing that he was going to attack Black Panther god Batet. Ancient One's acquiescence also made him determined to attack Black Panther god Batet. "We still need to wait. Although Batet is just a primitive animal god, it is a higher-level life form anyway. It will not be easy to deal with it." Doom knew about the existence of Wakanda a long time ago, and he also knew that there was a Black Panther god in Wakanda who had lived for many years. But he never had the idea of attacking Wakanda, let alone having crazy ideas such as slaying gods. The reason is simple. Ladovinia, which he rules, is too far away from Wakanda, where the Black Panther god is located. There is not even the simplest communication between the two countries, let alone conflict. However, when Rog took the initiative to find him and proposed the crazy god-slaying plan, and promised to share the profits after the god-slaying plan and send a part of the vibranium to Ladovinia, he began to feel tempted. He doesn't need to intervene in Konoha's war against Wakanda. All he has to do is to cooperate with Rog to deal with Black Panther god Batet. Small effort, big return, and the risk is not very high. Under such circumstances, he has no reason to refuse Rog. "Then let me know when you are ready. I will let Konoha start military operations against Wakanda first." After that, Rog hung up the phone. The news that Konoha defeated the official forces quickly spread. Just as people were talking about how the dispute between Konoha and the officials would end, Konoha took the initiative to open military operations against Wakanda. At first, people didn't quite understand why Konoha would declare war on a backward agricultural country like Wakanda. However, when the battle between the Black Panther and the Royal Guard spread, the pretense that Wakanda has maintained for thousands of years was completely removed. For a while, Wakanda, Black Panther, vibranium, and other information attracted the attention of the whole world. Of course, the reason why the information about Wakanda spread so quickly was that Konoha added fuel to the fire. After about a week of repeated wrangling, Ross used legal means to return to his position as the Secretary of State. At the same time, under his vigorous efforts, Konoha's military restricted area was successfully established, and the White House and the military reluctantly issued a vague statement of support. Although the content of the statement was somewhat different from what Rog imagined, and even played with low-level means such as word games, he didn't take it to heart. As long as this statement was released publicly, his purpose was achieved. Regarding this point, whether it was him or the White House, they were all very clear about it. With this official level of support, Konoha's army, which has been completely reorganized, began to head to Wakanda. This time, Rog didn't open the portal to let Konoha's army directly reach Wakanda, but used a more complicated route. Konoha's 4 universal-level battleships will rise from Washington to outer space, and then fly from outer space to Wakanda. In terms of efficiency, this method is far less efficient than the portal magic. But the advantage is that it can make other countries understand that Konoha's universal-level battleships are advanced battleships with real space warfare capabilities, and they are just superficial, like S.H.I.E.L.D's helicarrier. Chapter 558. The capital of Wakanda, Byron Zana, which was originally hidden by a super-large energy barrier, was now exposed in front of Rog and the others without reservation. The Golden Jack and 3 Bijou series battleships floated quietly in the air. Around the battleship, there were hundreds of Nova fighters and Narrow fighters with octagonal wings. In addition to Konoha's troops, there were also many helicopters and vehicles from other countries gathered near the capital of Wakanda. These helicopters and vehicles came from various countries. There were military ones as well as civilian ones. There were soldiers representing a country, and there were also reporters who came here for live broadcast. After Konoha officially declared war on Wakanda, and deliberately leaked information about Wakanda, Wakanda's borders became completely non-existent. Wakanda also knew that with their military strength alone, there was no way to maintain the integrity of the country's borders. Therefore, the current king of Wakanda, Black Panther Chara, decisively gave up the maintenance of the border and recalled all the people of Wakanda to the capital, Byron Zana. Sir, the energy nature and strength of Wakanda's energy barrier have been analyzed. It can't withstand the continuous bombardment of the battleship's main cannon. In the main control room of the Golden Jack, Sharon Carter handed the transparent tablet in his hand to Rog and said respectfully, "First, let the Special Forces and the Wolf Pack troops gather on the ground. Nova fighters and Narrow fighters clear the nearby airspace and drive away the guys who are watching the show. For other countries, Wakanda's super-large energy barrier is a very troublesome existence. But for Konoha, whose war technology is comparable to the Kree Empire and Xander, it is not difficult to solve this barrier. Even if the technology is not advanced enough, as long as they are willing to sacrifice their troops, they can forcibly break through Wakanda's energy barrier. The vanguard of Thanos' Tyrant can forcibly break through the barrier regardless of injuries. Rog's special forces and the werewolves can of course do the same. However, he has no intention of using this crude tactic at all. The reason is simple: his men are much more precious than Thanos' Tyrant's vanguard. After all, Konoha only has more than 500 combatants. He can't use the lives of small soldiers to consume the energy barrier. Under the gaze of Black Panther Chara and the Wakanda army, Konoha's special forces and the werewolves completed the assembly. At the same time, Rog, who was wearing the 4th-generation Fire Shadow Haori, left the Golden Jack and floated in front of it. After putting on Endless Greed, which was a copy of the Flame Giant's physique, he summoned the Twilight Sword that he had never used in battle before. With the appearance of the Eternal Fire, the red tip of the Sunset Light Sword quickly took shape. It instantly transformed from an illusory flame into a real magic sword. At this time, the Twilight Sword summoned by Rog was only a meter long. However, just when everyone thought that he was going to use the Twilight Sword to attack Wakanda's energy barrier, he pointed the tip of the Twilight Sword at the sky. Then, boundless eternal fire gushed out from the tip of the sword and shot into the sky like a pillar of energy. When the Eternity Fire rose to a height of several hundred meters, he stopped and stared at Black Panther and the others within the energy barrier. As a magical weapon, the Twilight Sword had no fixed size. As long as there was enough energy, it wouldn't be a problem to make the Twilight Sword as big as Mount Everest. When the Twilight Sword in Rog's hand grew from more than a meter long to several hundred meters long, Black Panther Chara's heart surged with uneasiness. The energy barrier in front of them was Wakanda's most important line of defense. Once the energy barrier was broken, Wakanda's capital, Burning Zana, would be an undefended city. As the king of Wakanda, Black Panther was very clear about the defensive ability of the energy barrier. But at this time, he suddenly had the idea that the energy barrier couldn't stop Rog's sword. No. He couldn't do it. The energy barrier was connected to the vibrating metal energy center. He couldn't have the power to destroy the energy barrier with a sword. Although the Twilight Sword had soared to several hundred meters long, it wasn't difficult for Rog, who had the body of a sage, to use it. The Twilight Sword was long, but it wasn't very heavy. At least, it was much lighter than steel of the same volume. Moreover, the most important thing to use a magic physical weapon was not the user's physical strength, but the user's magic power. Although Rog was only a part-time sorcerer, his magic level was not bad at all. Even by the standards of the Ancient One, he could be regarded as one of the best Camartage sorcerers of this generation. After looking at the total number of Wakanda troops in the energy barrier, Rog swung his right hand down forcefully and slashed the Twilight Sword, which was several hundred meters long, directly at the energy barrier in front of him. This was a simple slash that even a 3-year-old child could do. However, when the Twilight Sword with the red tip hit this huge hemispherical energy barrier, a magical scene was born. The area where the Twilight Sword came into contact with the energy barrier instantly gushed out with orange-red flames that blotted out the sky. These flames that gushed out seemed ordinary, but they showed an amazing spreading speed. In less than a second or two, these flames completely covered the hemispherical energy barrier, turning Wakanda's energy barrier into a huge burning fireball. The flames gushing out of the Twilight Sword not only covered the energy barrier, but also completely blocked the sight of Black Panther and others. If they looked out from inside the energy barrier at this time, all they could see was a 360-degree flaming sky with no blind spots. Just as everyone looked at the scene in front of them with an incredulous look, a sound like glass shattering continuously sounded. These cracking sounds coming from all directions were not loud, but it was enough to attract people's attention. Boom! Within a few seconds, a loud sound like a balloon bursting sounded. After the sound, the burning fireball quickly collapsed, and the flames that blotted out the sky rushed to the ground like a waterfall. Just when all the Wakanda people, including Black Panther, thought that they were about to be attacked by a sea of fire like the end of the world, these flames that fell from the sky rushed toward the Twilight Sword like a tornado. Rog did intend to use Wakanda to establish his dominance, but he did not intend to massacre the city. It was not difficult to completely destroy Wakanda, but this was not in line with his habit of maximizing benefits. He wanted Wakanda's vibranium, he also wanted Wakanda's technology. As for these people of Wakanda, he did not intend to waste them either. After using the Twilight Sword to retract all the flames, Rog let the Twilight Sword return to its original length of more than 1 meter. Then, he pointed the tip of the sword at Black Panther T'Challa. All troops, attack. Chapter 559. The Special Forces and werewolves on the ground launched a charge against the Wakanda army, and the Nova and Narrow fighters in the sky also joined the battle for the first time. Unlike the Wakanda army, who had high-tech weapons but still fought like a primitive tribe, Konoha Special Forces and the werewolves proved what modern warfare is. The werewolves with high HP and high HP were responsible for frontal assault and attack. The Special Forces wearing individual power armors were responsible for long-range attacks and firepower support. As for the Nova and Narrow fighters that had complete air supremacy, they were responsible for large-scale heavy firepower support and air support. Although the forces dispatched by Konoha were far less than the Wakanda army led by Black Panther, Konoha's combat power was far beyond the Wakanda army. After destroying the energy barrier of Wakanda with the Twilight Sword, Rog returned to the Golden Jack and patiently waited for the appearance of Black Panther God Bast. He didn't command the battle on the spot, but handed over the command to the Punisher and let the Punisher command the battle on his behalf. In addition, he also restricted the actions of Abomination, Kurenai, Quicksilver, and others, making them obediently act as spectators on the Golden Jack. Except for Black Panther T'Challa, there was no one with particularly strong individual strength in Wakanda. To deal with the Wakanda army that had energy weapons but still had a primitive tribal concept of war, there was no need to send Abomination, Kurenai, and others. Not only did Rog not let Abomination and others join the battle, but even the 4 battleships such as the Golden Jack also maintained a spectator posture under his command. Defeating the Wakanda army was a matter of no suspense. Whether the Golden Jack and other battleships participated in the battle or not, the outcome would not change. And compared to Konoha defeating the Wakanda army, Rog was more concerned about when the Guardian of Wakanda, Black Panther God Bast, would appear. Time passed by little, and the war on the ground began to gradually develop into a one-sided situation. In addition to Rog and others on the battleship watching this completely unfair battle, the audience of other countries also saw the real-time broadcast of the battle through the news. For the audience, the battle between Konoha and Wakanda was like a scene out of a sci-fi movie. Energy beams of various colors danced in the air. The individual power armors of Konoha's special force and the vibranium energy weapons of Wakanda's soldiers gave the audience in different corners of the world the illusion that they were watching a futuristic sci-fi war. However, in this futuristic sci-fi war, the most eye-catching ones weren't Konoha's special forces or Wakanda's soldiers, but the werewolves with an average height of 2.5 meters. Although these werewolves did not have any equipment or energy weapons, their sharp claws and fangs were the most lethal killing weapons. Unlike being hit by bullets and energy beams, the Wakandan warriors who were entangled with the werewolves did not even have the chance to leave their corpses intact. They had to report to their guardian, the Black Panther god Bast. It was a bloody and primitive hand-to-hand combat, where energy weapons clashed against each other. These two completely different styles of battle were strangely merged together, creating an alternative war scene between Konoha's army and Wakanda's army. Golden Jack, main control room of the battleship. Are you sure this can lure out the Black Panther god Bast? Rog, sitting in the captain's position, turned his head and asked Dr. Doom, who had been silent since boarding the battleship. Don't doubt my research results. As long as your troops can maintain this stable killing efficiency, the Black Panther god Bast will definitely appear. Doom's voice sounded slowly, and he answered confidently. I hope so. Rog didn't doubt Doom's research results, but he instinctively felt that things wouldn't be so simple. If it was so easy to lure out the Black Panther god Bast, then Bast's thinking was a bit too simple. As long as one had a normal IQ, it was easy to see that Konoha deliberately restrained some of its power. Konoha's method of preserving its strength usually only had two situations. The first was that Konoha didn't put Wakanda in its eyes at all, so it didn't want to go all out. The other was that Konoha had other plans, so it preserved some of its strength just in case. Although the predecessor of the Black Panther god Bast was a Black Panther, in any case, it was a god. It was impossible for it not to see through Konoha's simple and straightforward method. Any existence that can break through the original level of life and be promoted to a god can't be a fool, so Rog always felt that things wouldn't be so simple. Just when Rog was considering whether to let the Punishers increase the attack power and let more Wakanda soldiers go to the Black Panther god Bast's divine kingdom, the originally endless blue sky quickly dimmed. Glancing at the sky that seemed to turn from day to night in an instant, a satisfied smile appeared on Rog's face. The Black Panther god Bast really appeared. Order the troops to withdraw, all troops retreat 10 kilometers. After letting Sharon Carter inform the Punishers who were commanding the battle on the ground, Rog stood up from the captain's position and opened the portal connecting to Konoha's headquarters. With the opening of the portal, Fenrir, who was in Konoha's headquarters, curiously stretched his head and looked at Rog with a confused face. Black, transform into the form of the Northern Cold Sword, we are going to kill a god. As soon as Rog finished speaking, Black emerged from Fenrir's head and transformed into the Northern Cold Sword without saying a word. Black was a symbiotic living weapon he created based on the legendary Black Death Sword. Although Black didn't become as powerful as the Black Death Sword, at this time, Black was the most suitable weapon to kill a god. After all, his ancestor, Black Death Sword, had a glorious record of killing Kagami. After putting on the Northern Cold Sword, Rog and Doctor of Destruction Doom left the Golden Jack without looking back. Although the soldiers and reporters of other countries didn't know why Konoha's troops suddenly began to withdraw, their intuition told them that it was a wise decision to retreat with Konoha's troops. It didn't take long for Konoha's troops to withdraw 10 kilometers away in accordance with Rog's request. At the same time as Konoha's troops withdrew, Wakanda's army, which had more than half of its casualties, also began to withdraw quickly without the slightest hesitation. Others may not know what this sudden change in the weather means, but as the king of Wakanda, Black Panther T'Challa was very clear about what was happening now. The reason why Black Panther T'Challa dared to say in front of Rog that Wakanda was not afraid of any enemy was not because Wakanda had vibranium technology that far exceeded the technological level of Earth, but because they had a great god who always protected them. As long as Black Panther God Bast was there, Wakanda would not be afraid of any enemy. No one can withstand the anger of a god. Not in the past, not now, and not in the future. From a secular point of view, there was no problem with Black Panther T'Challa's idea. It's just that he ignored a very serious problem. Gods were also divided into strong and weak, and there was also the risk of death and fall. Gods were not invincible eternal existences. Chapter 560. What is a god? In fact, a god is also a human, but a god can do what a human can't do, so they became a god. Rog, who was floating in the air side by side with Dr. Doom, looked up at the dark sky, and a line he had seen in a movie unconsciously appeared in his mind. After getting the godhood of the Black Panther god Batet, what are you going to do with it? Become a god yourself after digesting the godhood? When the Black Panther god Batet appeared, Rog turned his head and asked the silent Dr. Doom. What about you? What are you going to do with it? You don't look like the kind of person who wants to become a god. Dr. Doom glanced at Rog and asked rhetorically. Actually, I really want to become a god, but the god I want to become is not like the Black Panther god Batet. Rog didn't lie, he really wants to become a god. It's just that he wants to become the god of ninjas, not a god like the Black Panther god Batet who relies on the power of faith to exist. Compared with the power of faith that requires a large number of believers, he believes more in his own power that will not change because of the will of others. Becoming a god is not as beautiful as you believe. A life without humanity is meaningless. Not knowing whether he was persuading Rog to give up the idea of becoming a god, or persuading himself to give up the fantasy of becoming a god, Doom said slowly in an extremely serious tone. Well said. In terms of humanity and life, Rog agreed with Doom's statement and nodded silently. Just by looking at the relaxed appearance of the two of them now, it is completely impossible to imagine that what they are going to do next will be a crazy battle of god slaying. Perhaps this also has a lot to do with the fact that both of them are people who have seen big scenes. For others, gods or demons only exist in myths and legends. But for the two of them, not only have they seen the so-called gods and demons with their own eyes, but they have also really fought. For example, in Hell, they had a fairly fair battle with the Lord of Hell, Mephisto. Although they didn't manage to defeat Mephisto in that battle, they had achieved their goal perfectly. They sent the soul of Dum's mother to heaven and escaped from hell alive from the hands of the enraged Mephisto. Although the Black Panther god Bast was the guardian of Wakanda, there was no way he could be stronger than the Lord of Hell, Mephisto. If Rog didn't guess incorrectly, Black Panther god Bastet's strength was at most on the same level as them, which was the level of Yatian Father. It was not that Earth could not give birth to a Heavenly Father-level existence, but it was definitely not enough to rely on the faith of Wakanda alone. If the Black Panther god Batet could become the faith of all of Africa, or even the faith of all of Earth, it might be able to open the door to becoming a Heavenly Father. However, this was clearly an impossible task for Black Panther god Batet. Black Panther god Batet didn't let Rog and Dum wait for too long. When the Black Panther brought the surviving Wakanda warriors back to the city, Black Panther god Batet, who had been guarding Wakanda for God knows how many years, finally appeared. Under the howling wind and the illogical moonlight, thunderclouds with lightning twined around them quickly gathered and condensed into a huge panther head that was hundreds of meters in size in front of Rog and Dum. The flashing lightning in the thunderclouds became the eyes and mouth of the panther head, roaring wildly at Rog and Dum. It seems to be looking down on us. It's actually using this energy body to threaten us. Rog said with a smile. Whether it was Rog or Dum, neither of them took Black Panther god Bastet's roar to heart. Not to mention that the one baring its teeth and roaring in front of them was just an energy head condensed from thunderclouds. Even if Bastet's true body was baring its fangs and brandishing its claws at them, they wouldn't have any fear. Don't waste time, let's end this quickly. After saying that, red and blue magic formations appeared around Dum's armor and body. He didn't like this kind of battle where people were watching. Now, he didn't know how many cameras and surveillance satellites were aimed at them, trying to film or monitor their battle. For him, this felt like he was taking the initiative to expose his trump card in front of people. No problem. After Dumu entered his battle state, Rog did not hesitate at all. He took a deep breath, and unleashed the immortal mode that he had not used for a while. Shikatsu Forest, Sage Mode. In just an instant, he absorbed enough natural energy from the surrounding air to transform chakra into Immortal Technique chakra. Red eyeshadow and lines appeared around his eyes and forehead. His Sage Mode that was already far beyond ordinary people also received a terrifying increase at this moment. After entering Sage Mode, he decisively used his first Immortal Technique. Immortal Technique, Shadow Clone. After using chakra to create 4 shadow clones, they quickly rushed to the east, south, west and north without needing his instructions. Then, they joined forces to cast an extremely powerful boundary ninjutsu. Immortal Technique, 4 Crimson Yang Formation. The 4 Violet Flame Formation was a boundary ninjutsu developed by Rog himself, and the 4 Crimson Yang Formation was developed by Hinata. After Hinata showed amazing and unreasonable ninjutsu research and development ability, Rog gave all these research and development tasks that require a lot of time and calculations to Hinata. The 4 Crimson Yang Formation that was jointly cast by 4 Kage-level ninjas with chakra has the terrifying strength to resist the 10-tailed Bijou bullet. And the 4 Crimson Yang Formation in the Immortal Technique state is stronger than the ninjutsu state. A red rectangular barrier with transparent flames quickly formed, completely enveloping Rog, Dum, and Black Panther God Batet. The purpose of casting the 4 Crimson Yang Formation wasn't to prevent others from interfering in the battle, but purely to prevent Black Panther God Batet from turning around and escaping. If Black Panther God Batet were to escape, they might not be able to find him again next time. Old rules, I'll go first and you back. As soon as his voice fell, Rog pulled out the Northern Cold Sword on his waist and attacked the huge Black Panther God Batet in front of him. The battle of god slaying has officially begun. In just a blink of an eye, Rog, wearing the Yondaime Hokage Haori robe and holding the Northern Cold Sword, rushed to the front of the Black Panther God Batet. Under the gaze of Black Panther God Batet, his left hand gently brushed the blade of the Northern Cold Sword, leaving a visible lightning bolt on the pitch-black Northern Cold Sword. With the entanglement of lightning, the blade of the Northern Cold Sword instantly soared to the size of tens of meters, and like the scythe of the God of Death, it slashed the huge Black Panther God Batet in front of him. Chapter 561. There was no suspense. Rog's Northern Cold Blade went straight into the head of the Black Panther formed by the thunderclouds. The moment the Northern Cold Blade went into the head, the silver-white lightning on the blade shone brightly like a meteor cutting through the night sky. It went from the forehead of the Black Panther to its mouth. The Northern Cold Blade, which was dozens of meters long, was far smaller than the Black Panther head formed by the thunderclouds. However, in terms of sharpness and sturdiness, the Northern Cold Blade was far superior to the Black Panther head. Even if the thunderclouds had the divine power of Black Panther God Batet, it was impossible to make the thunderclouds as hard as steel. Moreover, even if it was real steel, the Northern Cold Blade could still cut it in half like a hot knife through butter. Rog's Northern Cold Blade had just cut through the Black Panther head when a golden ball of light, like the sun, appeared in Doom's hand in the distance. Holy Light Expulsion. Just as the enormous Black Panther head was about to swallow Rog, Dr. Destruction shot out the basketball-sized golden ball of light in his hand like a cannonball. In front of this golden ball of light, which was filled with dense holy power, distance seemed to have lost its meaning. In just an instant, the golden ball of light arrived in front of the Black Panther head. Then, like the sun, it exploded with a blinding light that covered the entire night sky. Sizzle, under the baptism of the holy power, the Black Panther head, which was hundreds of meters long, melted quickly like snow under the hot sun. Although the golden ball of light that Doom shot out exploded near Rog, it was different from Black Panther god Batet, who relied on the power of faith to become a god. He did not suffer much damage. To some extent, the holy power that came from heaven was also a manifestation of the power of faith. However, compared to the pure power of faith, heaven's holy power was the power of faith that had been modified by the Creator. It was a power of faith that could be used by more people. The reason why Doom chose to use holy power to attack Black Panther god Batet at this time was because the holy power that came from heaven had an extremely overbearing attribute. In heaven's belief system, any belief that did not come from the Creator was an evil god's belief. In other words, in heaven's judgment, evil gods were more evil than hell's demons. The wars between the churches in the Middle Ages were a clear example. Therefore, when he decided to carry out this crazy god-slaying plan with Rog, Dum had already thought about how to use his divine power to fight against the Black Panther god, Batet. Just as he had expected, when he used the divine power that originated from heaven to attack the Black Panther god Batet, the divine power displayed its tyrannical nature when attacking evil gods or demons. When the golden light gradually dissipated, the head of the Black Panther, which was originally hundreds of meters in size, shrank to dozens of meters in size. The endless night created by the Black Panther god Batet was no longer as dark as before. It was unknown if Black Panther god Batet was angered by Rog's attacks or if it finally decided to deal with Rog seriously. The Black Panther head formed by the thunderclouds changed again, becoming a complete Black Panther. However, just as the Black Panther god Batet condensed a complete Black Panther body, Rog, who had already restored the Northern Liang saber to its original size, suddenly clasped his hands together and shouted. Immortal art, bright god gate. Black Panther god Batet had just condensed a new body, and before it could move, red torii fell from the sky one after another, crushing Black Panther god Bastet's new body with the momentum of meteors. Neck, back, waist, tail, limbs, the bright god gate that fell from the sky accurately hit every part of the Black Panther god Bastet's body like cruise missiles, firmly pressing it down on the ground. The bright god gate was a powerful sealing technique that could even suppress tailed beasts. Although the Black Panther god Batet wasn't a tailed beast, that didn't stop Rog from using the bright god gate to deal with it. Moreover, in terms of size, the Black Panther god Batet that was dozens of meters in size had some similarities to a tailed beast. Other than directly suppressing the target's body, the bright god gate could also seal its energy for a short period of time. If it was used to deal with ninjas or tailed beasts, the bright god gate would seal chakra. If it was used to deal with the Black Panther god Batet, then the bright god gate would seal divine power. When Rog used the immortal art, bright god gate to forcefully suppress the Black Panther god Batet to the ground, Dum also used his second wave of attacks. Holy purification. The holy purification that Dum used to deal with the Lord of Hell Mephisto appeared once again. The holy light that was like the descent of the heavens completely enveloped the Black Panther god Batet. Under the baptism of the holy light, the thundercloud body condensed by Black Panther god Bastet's divine power exploded like a punctured balloon, turning into nothingness under the holy light. In less than 10 seconds, Rog and Dum completely defeated the Black Panther god Bastet's divine power clone, using unquestionable facts to prove that the two of them had the strength to slay gods. As the Black Panther god Bastet's divine power clone dissipated, the dark night sky became much brighter, no longer having that oppressive darkness. Come out, I know you're here. Rog didn't care about the Black Panther god Bastet's divine power clone dissipating, and spoke to the empty air in front of him. Although the Black Panther god Batet had only revealed his divine power clone, he was 100% sure that the Black Panther god Bastet's true body was within the 4 Crimson Yang formation. Whether it was instantly changing the weather or condensing a divine power clone, it wasn't something that could be done from a divine kingdom. If the Black Panther god Bastet's divine kingdom could have such an obvious effect on reality, he would have broken through to the Heavenly Father level long ago. After waiting patiently for a few seconds, a low beastly roar sounded in Rog and Dum's ears. This was a very clear threat. However, Rog and Dum didn't take this threat to heart. If they were afraid of this threat, they wouldn't have come to provoke the Black Panther god Bastet. The low roar filled with warning and threat sounded, but the Black Panther god Bastet had no intention of revealing his true body. What is this, hiding in the dark to scare us? Rog couldn't figure out what the Black Panther god Bastet was thinking at that moment. Byakugan, open. Since you don't want to take the initiative to come out, then I'll force you to show yourself. With the immortal technique for Crimson Yang formation, Rog wasn't worried that the Black Panther god Bastet would quietly return to his divine kingdom. In any case, the 4 Crimson Yang formation was a boundary ninjutsu. And one of the characteristics of boundary ninjutsu was that it had a space isolation effect. If it couldn't even achieve this most basic space isolation, it would be impossible for the 4 Crimson Yang formation to become a higher level boundary ninjutsu than the 4 Violet Flame formation. Chapter 562. With the activation of Byakugan, everything in the 4 Crimson Yang formation appeared clearly in Rog's line of sight. Through the supervision granted by Byakugan, he quickly found Black Panther god Bastet, who was almost integrated with the shadows. As the guardian god of Wakanda, the authority held by the Black Panther god Bast was somewhat different from the authority held by the human gods. From the divine power it has shown so far, its authority has already involved the night, invisibility, lightning, and other domains. Of course, as a panther god, it will definitely not lack the authority of hunting, fighting, physical strengthening, and other domains. Found you. After finding Black Panther god Bastet in the shadows of the forest, Rog put his hands together again and used Mokuton, which is most suitable for Shikatsu Forest Sage Mode. Sage Mode would release Haboku Jutsu. The Sage Mode chakra in Rog's body instantly poured into the ground, and huge wooden palms emerged from the ground and directly grabbed Black Panther god Bastet, who was hiding in the shadows. Compared with Wood Human Jutsu and Wood Dragon Jutsu, Haboku Jutsu has higher mobility, and its versatility is no worse than Wood Human and Wood Dragon. Because it only needs to make palms with Wood release, Haboku Jutsu's activation time is faster than Wood Human Jutsu and Wood Dragon Jutsu. The huge palms that seem to emerge from the abyss are more difficult to dodge than Wood Human and Wood Dragon. When the huge palms made by Haboku Jutsu emerged from the ground one by one, Black Panther god Bastet knew that its position has been exposed. When these huge wooden palms grabbed towards the shadow it was hiding in, Black Panther god Bastet didn't hesitate and jumped out of the shadow like a ghost. Black Panther god Bastet, who was surrounded by black mist, jumped hundreds of meters in an instant under the bright moonlight and effortlessly escaped from the encirclement of the wooden palms. However, at the moment it was about to land, huge wooden palms emerged from the ground in front of it again. If Haboku Jutsu was so easy to dodge, it wouldn't be a Mokuton ninjutsu that was valued by Hashirama. When these huge wooden palms were about to grab it, Black Panther god Bastet showed the unique flexibility of a cat, and forcibly twisted its body before landing, slightly changing its landing point. The wooden palm failed to catch him again. Black Panther god Bastet took this opportunity to run a few hundred meters away, once again leaving the encirclement set up by the wooden palm. Rog wasn't surprised that the Black Panther god Bastet could avoid the capture of the cloth bag technique twice in a row. As a god, it would be inconceivable if the Black Panther god Bastet didn't even have this ability. Moreover, from the Black Panther god Buster's 2 dodges, he discovered a fatal weakness of the Black Panther god. The Black Panther god Bastet didn't have the ability to fly. Although this seemed a little inconceivable, it was proven that the Black Panther god Bastet did not have the ability to fly. If it had the ability to fly, it wouldn't have needed to spend so much effort to dodge the second time. A simple rise into the air would have allowed it to escape the grasp of the wooden palm. Of course, they couldn't rule out the possibility that the Black Panther god Batet was deliberately hiding his strength. However, Rog doubted that with the Black Panther god Bastet's personality and way of thinking, he would not be able to come up with such a plan. He didn't doubt Black Panther god Buster's intelligence. He just felt that this didn't match Black Panther god Buster's style. "I'll restrain him. You can start preparing the fatal strike." When the Black Panther god Batet dodged the capture of the cloth bag again, Rog didn't control the wooden palm to attack him again. Instead, he turned his head and slowly said to Dum, who had come to his side. After saying that, he seriously sized up the Black Panther god Batet, who had revealed his true form. From the outside, the Black Panther god Batet looked like a black panther that had been magnified several dozen times. He had shiny black fur all over his body, faint purple eyes, and sharp fangs and claws that emitted cold light. He didn't know if it was his own misconception, but when he was sizing up the Black Panther god Batet, Rog felt that the Black Panther god Batet and Fenrir were indescribably compatible. Although one of them was a canine, and the other was a feline. Both of them had silky smooth black fur, and their body sizes were very similar. Fenrir had a shoulder height of 4 to 5 meters, and a body length of over 10 meters. Her intelligence wasn't low, and she was very wild. The Black Panther god Bastet's shoulder height and body length were about the same as Fenrir, and he also had a rather high intelligence, and was also very wild. If he hadn't already discussed with Dum to split the Black Panther god Bastet's divinity equally, Rog had the urge to ask Fenrir if she would mind starting a cross-species same-sex love. Thinking of this, he suddenly noticed something that he had never paid attention to before. Batet should be a male, right? Dum, who was preparing a fatal blow, was stunned for a moment. Although the metal mask blocked his expression, Rog could tell from his eyes what he wanted to express. "Are you kidding me? Seems like it." Rog didn't care about Dum's gaze that looked like he was looking at an idiot, and said to himself. In fact, strictly speaking, the gods didn't have a so-called gender. If they wanted to, they could change their gender at any time. This wasn't difficult for the gods who had grasped the power of faith. However, in order to stabilize their divinity and divinity, most of the gods would maintain the gender they had before igniting their divine fire, so as to avoid the cracks and fluctuations in their divinity and divinity due to the gender change. In addition, the gods' gender change could easily cause the believer's faith to change, causing these gods who relied on the power of faith to become gods to suffer unnecessary risks. After shaking his head to get rid of these messy thoughts from his mind, Rog once again controlled the polybag technique. After confirming that the Black Panther god Batet didn't have the ability to fly, the difficulty of restraining and capturing him plummeted. The Black Panther god Batet did indeed have decent speed and agility, but as long as he couldn't fly, he wouldn't be able to dodge the following wooden palm. The reason was simple, because Rog planned to let the wooden palm of the polybag technique cover every corner of the barrier. In terms of cost-effectiveness, this was a very wasteful action of the Immortal technique chakra. However, this was nothing to Rog, who had 0.65 chakra and had entered Sage mode. When he clasped his hands together again, the Immortal technique chakra in his body crazily poured into the ground as if it was free. In an instant, tens of thousands of wooden palms poured out from every part of the ground in the barrier, constructing an endless hell made entirely of wooden palms. Chapter 563. Aren't you jumping around? Why don't you jump around again for me to see? This thought should have appeared in the mind of the Black Panther god Batet, who had a higher level of life. But now, the Black Panther god Batet, who was regarded as a protector by the Wakanda people, was being chased around like a cat by Rog, who used the wood release, complete cloth bag technique. It had to be said that felines were far more agile than humans and canines. Even though the Black Panther god Batet was surrounded by so many wooden palms, it still displayed astonishing agility and speed. Relying on shadow jump and other methods, as well as its high agility, the Black Panther god Batet walked out an unusual escape route under the encirclement of the huge palms. Like a ghost in the middle of the night, the Black Panther god Batet kept flashing around as if it could not get tired. Moreover, the landing point it chose every time it flashed was very interesting. In order to avoid falling into the wooden palms, the Black Panther god Batet did not choose the ground as his landing point. Instead, he used the fingers of the wooden palms as leverage. When his two front limbs touched the fingers of the wooden palms, he would rely on the support provided by the fingers to change his route. He would either flash or jump, once again dodging the wooden palms. Although the Black Panther god Batet was jumping around happily, he still underestimated Rog's control of the complete cloth bag technique. Just as he was about to repeat the same trick and borrow strength from the fingers of the wooden palms to avoid being caught, the huge wooden palms in front of him suddenly retracted back into the ground. Since the complete cloth bag technique could grow huge wooden palms from the ground, it could also retract these palms back into the ground. Although these wooden palms looked like carefully carved wooden sculptures, under the nourishment of the immortal technique chakra, each of these wooden palms possessed living characteristics. The Black Panther god Batet never thought that Rog would actually make the wooden palms retract back into the ground. Moreover, the palms that retracted back into the ground were not just the ones in front of him. In the blink of an eye, all the wooden palms around him retracted back into the ground, turning the area around him into an empty space. Unless he could fly, the only ending in front of him was to fall to the ground. Although the Black Panther god Batet was a god, he was a god that could not fly. Therefore, it could only obey the laws of gravity on Earth. Black Panther god Batet knew that it would be in danger of being caught if it landed, but it didn't have a second choice. Whether it was the power of lightning or the power of shadow, it could not change the fact that it was about to land. However, this did not mean that it would give up without a fight. The moment he landed on the ground, he immediately used Shadow Jump to leave the area. Although the casting speed of the cloth bag technique was fast, the Black Panther god Batet had absolute confidence in changing its position before the wooden palms reappeared. Black Panther god Bastet's idea wasn't wrong, but he had overlooked a very important point. Rog wasn't the kind of person who would play his cards according to common sense. Just as all of its attention was focused on the moment of landing, Rog made the first move. Two gigantic palms, each over 100 meters long, emerged from the ground like the hands of a demon. The two palms appeared on the left and right sides of Black Panther god Bast. Just as it realized that something was wrong, the two gigantic wooden palms suddenly clasped together and interlocked their fingers. If Hinata was here now, she would definitely recognize that the two palms clasped together was a hand seal, and it was the last hand seal commonly used in wood release. Immortal technique, wood release, diamond motionless. From the point of view of the attack, this wood release ninjutsu called diamond motionless is just holding the two wooden palms together in the form of a hand seal. But in fact, this is one of the wood release ninjutsu developed by Rog himself. Of course, it was without the help of ninjutsu master Hinata. Diamond motionless is a second-class ninjutsu developed by Rog based on the cloth bag technique. It is a ninjutsu used to suppress or seal the target. The suppression effect of this ninjutsu is mainly shown in two aspects. The first is the strong physical suppression provided by the wooden palms when the palms clasp together. The second is to use the constantly flowing chakra in the palms to disturb the energy flow in the target's body, so that the target can't break free through magic or other spell-type skills. When he first designed this ninjutsu, Rog used Hulk and Thanos as imaginary enemies. But now, he found that Black Panther god Bast is also a good test target. Black Panther god Batet, who was being suppressed by Mokutan, Kingang's 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 Mokutan cunning human. Although Black Panther god Bast has been ignited for a long time, in terms of tactics, it is far inferior to humans. Not to mention compared with Rog, even if it randomly picked a person in Konoha Special Forces, it can't win in terms of tactical ability. People who play tactics have dirty hearts. If Black Panther God Bast has the same hobby of playing games as Rog, it will fully understand this sentence. The lively Black Panther God Bast was suppressed by Rog's Diamond Motionless. Doom, who was responsible for preparing the fatal blow, also took this opportunity to quickly complete all the preparations for the fatal blow. When Black Panther God Bast struggled in the palm of Diamond Motionless, a complicated magic circle quickly formed under Doom's control with the position of Diamond Motionless as the center. How to peel the complete divinity from the god? About this problem, Dr. Doom once thought about it for a long time. Later, under someone's hint, he thought of a simple, crude, and incomparably efficient method. Sacrifice the god. In other words, directly refine the god. In the civilization system of the earth, magic is an existence that doesn't conform to the rules of science. But in fact, magic also follows the rules of science. It's just that unlike science on Earth, magic takes another path. In the magic system that follows the rules of science, there is a branch that abides by the rules of science. This branch is called alchemy. Without sacrifice, you can't get anything. If you want to get something, you must pay the same price. This is the equivalent exchange principle of alchemy. Neither Rog nor Doom is an alchemist, but this doesn't prevent them from using the power of alchemy. Chapter 564. What Dr. Doom built on the ground was indeed a magic array, but to be more precise, it should be called an alchemy array. Although Rog and Doom intended to seize the divinity of Black Panther God Batet, they did not intend to do so in a normal way. First, defeat Black Panther God Batet, then consume its divinity and divine power, and finally separate its divinity. This was the most commonly used method and the most orthodox method. However, this method was a bit too complicated for Rog and Doom. Therefore, they chose a simpler and more crude method, which was to use alchemy to separate the divinity of Black Panther God Batet. Through the alchemy array, they sacrificed Black Panther God Batet to the Gate of Truth. Using the principle of equivalent exchange of the Gate of Truth, they completely separated the divinity, divine power, and divinity of Black Panther God Batet. The true body of Black Panther God Batet, as well as its divine power and divinity, would be sacrificed to the Gate of Truth. And its divinity would be separated separately and become Rog and Doom's spoils of war. Equivalent exchange, each taking what they need. This was the fatal blow that Rog and Doom prepared for Black Panther God Batet. If Black Panther Chara knew that Rog and Doom had this idea from the beginning, he would not have taken the royal guards to attack Konoha. He just wanted to seek justice for his father, Chara, and let others know what the consequences of maliciously obtaining vibranium were. But he would not have thought that his decision would ruin the patron of Wakanda, and even make the vibranium resources that belong to Wakanda completely become the private property of others. Let's begin. When the alchemy circle on the ground emitted a blue light, Rog deactivated the Mokutan, Kingang's Mokutan, allowing Black Panther God Batet to regain its freedom of movement. But before Black Panther God Batet had time to rejoice, the lightning on the alchemy array passed through the wooden palm like tentacles and touched its body. The moment the lightning touched it, it realized the danger it was in. However, it was too late. The alchemy formation had already begun to operate. It was located at the center of the alchemy formation, and not only was it an offering to the Gate of Truth, but it was also the energy source for the alchemy formation to continue operating. Because he wasn't the one performing the alchemy, Rog could only see the light blue lightning constantly striking the wooden palm and the Black Panther God Bastet's body, breaking them down into their purest form. In less than a second or two, the giant palm and the Black Panther God Batet completely disappeared from the refining array. Rog could not see the Gate of Truth that appeared when the alchemy circle was sacrificed, but Doom the spellcaster could clearly see everything that happened within the circle. Doom's consciousness entered an empty space that was so pure that it was oppressive. In this pure white space, a huge double stone door floated quietly in front of him. Above the gate was a tree of life with 10 rings connected to it. Below the tree of life, there were 10 wings of different sizes that represented 10 different kinds of grand cultivators. As an experienced mage, Dum was naturally not unfamiliar with the tree of life. However, he had only seen the Gate of Truth in magic books before. This was the first time he used alchemy to summon the Gate of Truth. After sizing up the floating Gate of Truth, Dum set his gaze on the Black Panther god Batet who was lying beside him. The Black Panther god Batet did not have the shocking size he had in the outside world. He looked just like an ordinary Black Panther. Although the Black Panther god Batet struggled with all his might, all of his resistance was meaningless in front of the Gate of Truth. He was forcefully pressed to the ground by an invisible, powerful force. I, Victor von Dum, sacrifice the Black Panther god Batet to you. I beg you to accept my sacrifice. I beg you to bestow upon me the divinity of the Black Panther god Batet. After glancing at the Black Panther god Batet who could not stand up, Dum spoke to the Gate of Truth with an unprecedented respectful tone. The moment he finished speaking and lowered his head, it was as if the Gate of Truth that had never been opened before was slowly pushed open by someone from the inside. When the Gate of Truth opened, a huge red eye appeared in the dark and deep door that was like a black hole. At this time, although Dum had his head lowered, the moment the Eye of Truth in the door stared at him, he felt an instinctive fear of being stared at by an indescribable great existence. Fortunately, the Eye of Truth in the Gate of Truth only glanced at him casually before shifting its gaze to the Black Panther god Batet who was still doing useless work. Under the shocked gaze of the Black Panther god Batet, arms of various sizes extended out from the Gate of Truth, as if they were completely condensed from shadows. These shadow-like arms slowly extended in front of the Black Panther god Batet and firmly grabbed the struggling Black Panther god Batet, pulling him bit by bit towards the Gate of Truth. The process of pulling the Black Panther god Batet into the Gate of Truth only lasted for a short few seconds. Of course, this time was just Dum's perception. In this space, there was no such thing as time. After the Black Panther god Batet was completely pulled into the Gate of Truth, the opened Gate of Truth closed again. At the same time, Dum's consciousness also returned to his own body. The alchemy circle that emitted blue light stopped operating. The night that the Black Panther god Batet created with his divine power also disappeared, and the sky returned to its original appearance. Under the sunlight, 3 fist-sized transparent crystals that emitted golden light quietly lay in the middle of the alchemy circle. The Black Panther god Bastet's divinity. Rog, who exited sage mode, landed in front of Dum and said slowly, "There are a total of 3 divinity fragments. How do we split them? You have 2, and I have 1. I'll pick first." After thinking for a second or two, Dum gave an answer. Rog had no objections to Dum's arrangement. Although Dum had the right to pick first, no one knew which authority of the Black Panther god Batet was in these 3 divinity fragments before they were digested or used. The divinity fragments were indeed very precious, but Dum knew very well that he didn't have the strength to take them all for himself. Moreover, in terms of effort, Rog did put in more effort than him. After getting Rog's approval, Dum came in front of the divinity fragments and picked the one that was relatively bigger. After Dum made his choice, Rog used Chakra's hand to grab the remaining 2 divinity fragments and casually threw them into the psychic scroll that he carried with him. "Happy working with you." After putting away the divinity fragments, Rog extended his right hand to Dum with a satisfied expression and shook hands with him. "Happy working with you." Dum replied quietly. Then, he continued, "Don't forget the vibranium you promised me." "Don't worry. 100 tons of vibranium, not a gram less than you." Chapter 565. 100 tons of vibranium seems to be a lot, but compared to Wakanda's tens of thousands of tons of vibranium reserves, it's only a small part. Dum's sacrifice is definitely worth the 100 tons of vibranium. Good. Then I'll go back first. If there is such a cooperation in the future, you can contact me at any time. After receiving the divine spark of Black Panther god Bast, Dum began to arrange the teleportation formation and quickly disappeared in front of Rog. After Dum left, Rog gave a new order to Konoha's army that retreated 10 kilometers. An hour later, in the King's Hall in Bernzana, Wakanda's capital. Rog, wearing the Yondaime Hokage Haori, casually sat on the vibranium throne that symbolized the Wakanda king, glancing at Black Panther T'Challa and the members of the Elder Tribal Council kneeling in the hall. Around them, the corpses of the royal guards and Wakanda soldiers were lying everywhere. As far as I know, the Wakanda kings were all born from fighting. I'm stronger than any of you, so it's not against your customs to let me sit on the throne, right? Rog seemed to be asking Black Panther T'Challa and the elders, but everyone present could hear that he was mocking Wakanda's primitive tribal succession system. You've won, there's no need to continue to take advantage of these words. Just say it, how are you going to deal with us? Taking off his helmet, Black Panther T'Challa, who was kneeling in the hall, suppressed the anger in his heart and said with gritted teeth. As expected of the Wakanda king recognized by Black Panther god Bast, you have more backbone than these so-called elders. The winner takes all, the loser eats the dust. I'm the winner now, so whatever I want to do with you is my right. You don't have to count on other countries or the international community to provide you with any help. In this case, no country or organization will risk offending Konoha to help you. Rog looked at Black Panther like he was looking at a slave, and said to him like a real king. Hokage-sama, no matter what you want, just say it. As long as Wakanda can do it, we will definitely do it. We will definitely not disappoint you. The one who spoke was not Black Panther Chara. Instead, it was a tribal elder with a huge ring on his lips kneeling beside him. This elder was much older than T'Challa, and was more open about the outcome of Wakanda's defeat than T'Challa. More importantly, after this defeat, Chara would definitely not be able to continue as the king of Wakanda. However, as long as Wakanda still existed, he would still be a member of the Wakanda Elder Tribal Council, one of the respected elders of the tribe. Because of this, he was more accepting of Wakanda's defeat than T'Challa. However, just as he waited expectantly for Rog's answer, he saw Rog suddenly raise his right hand into the shape of a pistol. Water release, water iron cannon. Under the gaze of this tribal elder, Rog shot out a liquid bullet from his right index finger, accurately hitting his forehead and ending his life. I hate people who wear strange clothes and think they are infallible. After casually killing the tribal elder, Rog didn't look at Black Panther Chara again and said with a blank expression, from now on, everything in Wakanda belongs to Konoha. Whether it's vibranium, the technological products derived from it, or even your life, they are all Konoha's property. I'm not a demon, and I'm not interested in exterminating your race. But I'll say it first, if anyone tries to resist or provoke Konoha, then don't blame me for being cruel. Death is not the most painful thing, do you understand? After saying that, Rog no longer paid attention to Black Panther Chara and the others. He directly left the King's Hall and went to the vibranium under the city. The news that Konoha defeated and occupied Wakanda quickly spread throughout the world. For Konoha's overbearing military action, many self-proclaimed righteous people condemned Konoha. However, Konoha didn't put these public condemnations in their eyes, and unmoved, they carried out the plan called Wakanda Demolition. Under Rog's signal, Konoha began to crazily mine vibranium. Every king before Wakanda pursued the idea of controlling the mining of vibranium. After all, to some extent, vibranium is also a rare resource that can't be regenerated. But when Wakanda fell into the hands of Rog, everything changed. Not only did the underground vibranium usher in the largest mining in history, but even the vibranium used in the daily life of Wakanda people and related technological products derived from it were forcibly taken back by Konoha. Didn't Wakanda always claim that they are an agricultural country? Rog is now helping them fulfill this wish. The mined vibranium and the collected vibranium products were all sent to Konoha's hidden village on Tatooine. In addition to the vibranium and these technological products, all the research materials related to vibranium were also sent to Konoha's hidden village. Although Rog didn't kill the people of Wakanda, he uprooted the vibranium civilization of Wakanda. In today's internet age, it's not easy to clean up the information of a civilization. However, the isolation of Wakanda gave Rog an opportunity to completely destroy the vibranium civilization of Wakanda. This large-scale, Wakanda demolition operation was carried out for more than half a year before it gradually came to an end. In the process of Konoha's crazy mining of vibranium, some organizations that were not afraid of death tried to quietly take away some of the vibranium under Konoha's nose. However, Konoha quickly proved to the people of the world that they shouldn't have any ideas about Konoha's vibranium. When Konoha's personnel began to evacuate Wakanda, no vibranium could be found in Wakanda, which once had tens of thousands of tons of vibranium reserves. Even the capital of Wakanda, Burning Zana, which was the pride of Wakanda, was completely destroyed by Logue's dust release and turned into nothingness. After obtaining Wakanda's vibranium and related technology, Konoha's hidden village on Tatooine began to upgrade and transform it in full swing. It's worth mentioning that after Konoha emptied Wakanda's vibranium, Rog didn't waste the land of Wakanda. He distributed the Wakanda, which had no vibranium, to Bulan and the other werewolves, so that the werewolves could have a country of their own. Only by treating his subordinates well would he be able to make them risk their lives for him at critical moments. Although Rog is not a genius commander, he still understands this very well. Chapter 566. Abandoned Planet, Morag. You'd better be sure that the damn Universal Spirit Ball is here this time. For more than half a year, you have taken us around the universe like fools. After getting off the Milano, Rocket, who was holding an energy rifle, said to Star-Lord behind him with a dissatisfied look. Please believe in my professionalism, I am the best in the field of finding lost treasures. Star-Lord didn't care about Rocket's complaints and analyzed the road ahead with the artificial building restoration analyzer in his hand. Professionalism? You still have the nerve to mention professionalism. Your professionalism has made us waste more than 8 months of our time in vain. Rocket was full of resentment when he thought of the past 8 months or so. When Bakht first accepted Rog's commission, Rocket thought it would be a good commission with low risk and high return. But he never thought that it would take them more than 8 months to find the Universal Spirit Ball. Considering the time and energy that has been wasted so far, he felt that the 200 million star coins reward given by Rog was a bit too little. Okay, don't talk nonsense, hurry up and confirm it. Ebony Throat and Black Dwarf are still looking for us everywhere. Gamera's voice sounded behind Rocket and Star-Lord. They are not the only ones who are looking for the Universal Spirit Ball, and Thanos is also looking for the Universal Spirit Ball. Of course, Thanos himself would definitely not waste time on this search process, so he sent Ebony Throat and Black Dwarf of the Dark Five Generals. When they first started looking for the Universal Spirit Ball, Star-Lord and others did not know this. But when they met Ebony Throat and his party on an abandoned planet, the situation was different. They don't know what Ebony Throat and Black Dwarf were thinking. After coincidentally bumping into Star-Lord and others, they directly stared at Star-Lord and others and hunted them all over the universe like hounds. In order to get rid of Ebony Throat and others, Star-Lord and others broke out in several battles with Ebony Throat and others. Relying on the divine energy that has not been fully mastered, Star-Lord barely took a little advantage in the battle with Ebony Throat, and slightly got rid of Ebony Throat and others, and gained some undisturbed time. After hearing the names of Ebony Throat and Black Dwarf, Star-Lord and Rocket closed their mouths at the same time and began to search for the whereabouts of the Universal Spirit Ball in this temple that has been abandoned for God knows how many years. Tatooine, Konoha Hidden Village, Naruto Training Room. After joining forces with Professor Doom to get rid of the Black Panther god Batet, Rog once again began the simple and unadorned immortal body cultivation plan. After more than half a year, the development progress of the immortal body, which seemed to have been completely locked, finally improved again, from 90% to 95%. Although the improvement was not big, this was already the limit that Rog could achieve in the past 6 months. For the sake of this mere 5%, he had even set aside the cultivation of the nine-tailed resonance degree and focused all his energy on the development of the immortal body. Perhaps it was because this was a crucial point in the development of the immortal body. After the development of the immortal body reached 95%, the amount of chakra in his body ushered in the greatest increase in history. When the immortal body was 90% developed, the amount of chakra in his body was 0. 3 pillars. When the degree of development reached 95%, the amount of chakra in his body increased to 0. 5 chakra, which directly exceeded 50%. Plus the Kyubi chakra he could now use, his total amount of chakra reached an amazing 0. 85 chakra. The chakra that he had been longing for since the first day of crossing was finally in front of him. After the end of the day's training, he left the training room using quantum transmission. In a forest outside Konoha Hidden Village, he found the giant wolf Fenrir who had been excited for half a year. After getting the shard of the Black Panther god Batet, he intended to leave both shards for himself. However, after considering that magic was only his backup power, he fed one of the shards of divinity to Fenrir, trying to ignite his mount and pet's divine fire. The shard of divinity was fed, but Fenrir's digestion progress was very worrying. Half a year later, Fenrir didn't even completely digest the shard of divinity, let alone igniting the shard of divinity. Not only that, the shard of divinity also had extremely obvious side effects on Fenrir. Since eating the shard of divinity, Fenrir has been in this state of excitement as if injected with stimulants, crying and howling all day long, like a husky in heat. In order not to let Fenrir affect the normal life of the residents of Konoha Hidden Village, Rog drove him to the forest outside Konoha Hidden Village and gave him full freedom. "How do you feel today? Is it better?" After teleporting to Fenrir, Rog touched Fenrir's big head and asked with concern. "Awoo." "Awoo," Fenrir could have spoken, but after estrus, he was too excited, so excited that Little Black couldn't bear it, so Little Black, heartlessly, abandoned the host. Without the help of Little Black, Fenrir returned to a state where he could only howl. Okay, I know. When I go back, I will ask them to send another batch of prey." After comforting Fenrir, Rog turned his head and glanced at the lush forest that was somewhat abnormal. The animals and plants on Tatooine had been eaten clean by the hive that was in a state of hunger all year round. But this problem was solved after Rog dealt with Igo. After bringing back a batch of plant seeds from Igo, natural environments such as grasslands and forests once again appeared on Tatooine. Because of the time, these plants have not completely covered the entire Tatooine for the time being. However, with the exuberant vitality of these plants, they will sooner or later make Tatooine full of vitality like Igo's star. After returning to the Hokage's office by flying Thor, Rog asked Number 2, who had taken over Konoha Hidden Village, to send a new batch of prey to Fenrir. Later, he found Hinata, who was addicted to the development of ninjutsu and had a pleasant dinner with her. This dinner was very rich. Just when he planned to have a good sleep to restore his strength, Number 2's mechanical voice sounded in the bedroom. "Sir, the Golden Jack has received an emergency distress message from the Milano." "Play the message." When Number 2 opened the message from the Milano, as instructed, Star-Lord's nervous voice suddenly sounded. "Thanos took Gamora and also took the Universe Orb. His men and the army are chasing us, we need help, now." Chapter 567. After listening to the distress message sent by Star-Lord, Rog instantly cheered up. Compared with sleeping to restore stamina, the power gem is undoubtedly much more important. Furthermore, he wasn't in a particularly bad state right now. He was just a little tired. "Are you leaving again? How long will you be gone this time?" Before Rog, who was lying in bed, got up, Hinata's soft voice sounded. It shouldn't be long. After pinching Hinata's soft face full of collagen, Rog got up, put on his clothes, and used quantum transmission to come to the main control room of the Golden Jack. Lock the nearest interstellar jump coordinates to the Milano, and set off immediately. Rog, who was sitting in the captain's position, did not hesitate and immediately issued the order to set off. At this time, Konoha did not have any military operations, so there was no one on the Golden Jack, except for those robots responsible for daily maintenance and equipment repair. Yes, sir. Now in charge of controlling the Golden Jack, it is a clone of Artificial Intelligence No. 2, Sparrow, who uses the same mechanical synthesized voice as No. 2. Under the control of Sparrow, the Golden Jack, hovering in the outer space of Tatooine, began to start the main engine and drove towards the set interstellar jump point. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! I told you not to split up, but you didn't listen to me. At this time, Star-Lord was controlling the Milano to perform ultra-high-speed maneuvering evasive actions, avoiding the dozen or so small fighters behind them that were constantly firing at them. If you still have the strength to complain, it's better to find a way to get out of here as soon as possible. I don't want to take this little guy to fight Thanos' main ship. I am Groot. I agree with Rocket's statement. Rocket did not compete with Star-Lord for the piloting rights of the spaceship this time, but focused all his energy on the control of the energy cannon. Although there are only a dozen or so small fighters chasing after them. But behind these small fighters is Thanos' main ship, Temple No. 2. Whether it is driving the Milano against Thanos, Temple No. 2, or fighting Thanos' crazy Titan face to face, Rocket is not willing to do so. When Rocket first became a bounty hunter, he had already heard of Thanos' reputation. As a bounty hunter who often carried out shady missions, he understood the horror of Thanos better than most people. If Rog gave him the feeling of a legendary dragon that controlled the sky, then Rog's aura was much stronger than Rog's. Then, the feeling that Thanos gave him was that of the ancient Titan that dominated the earth and shared the limelight with the dragon in myths and legends. Monster. Both of them were monsters. At this time, Rocket began to regret accepting Rog's commission. It is precisely because of Rog's commission that they now have to face Thanos, who has the name, Crazy Titan. I'm Groot. Drax has to wear a spacesuit and go outside to stop those fighters, just as Rocket was controlling the energy cannons on the Milano to counterattack. Groot's voice suddenly sounded beside him. Stop that guy whose head is full of muscles. I don't want to go to the vacuum to collect his corpse. Rocket shouted in a roaring tone. Gamora was taken away by Thanos, Star-Lord was piloting the spaceship, and Rocket was controlling the turret. Thus, Drax the Destroyer had some crazy ideas that didn't even cross his mind. I'm Groot. It's too late, he has already connected the chain of the winch and gone out, Groot said silently. Why did I become teammates with such a person? Rocket didn't know what to say anymore. Drax the Destroyer, wearing a translucent honeycomb-shaped spacesuit, appeared in the aiming picture of the energy cannon at the tail of the spaceship. Through the aiming picture, Drax can be clearly seen holding an energy rifle and shooting around meaninglessly. When Rog took the Golden Jack to the coordinates attached to the Milano message, he found nothing. There was no Milano of Star-Lord and others, nor was there any Temple 2 of Thanos. There was no spaceship in the nearby universe. Is it still too late? Rog frowned. Contact the Milano and search the surrounding universe to see if you can find anything. After a few seconds of contemplation, he said to the spaceship's control system, Sparrow. Yes, sir. The emotionless mechanical synthetic voice sounded again. It has only been less than an hour since he received the message and arrived here. Although the Golden Jack has already exerted its fastest speed, it is obvious that Rog is still too late. Judging from the current situation, Star-Lord and others have either been wiped out by Thanos or have successfully escaped. No matter what the situation was, it was not good news for him. The universe is so big that it is slightly inadequate to use light-years as a unit of distance. It is not an easy task to find traces of Thanos in the universe, or to find Star-Lord and others who have escaped to who knows where. Call failed, we cannot contact the Milano for the time being. The wreckage of the spaceship was found at the double circle coordinates, 90 degrees, 30 degrees, 296 degrees. Sparrow reported the discovery to Rog. Let's go and take a look. Send a cross-domain over-distance message to the Milano, and ask them to send their current location. When they are in the same universe as the Milano, conventional calls and information transmission methods will be effective. When the Milano leaves the original universe through an interstellar jump, it can only contact the other party through a cross-domain over-distance message. In simple terms, this is equivalent to sending a text message to the other party. However, this text message will be transmitted to other universes through all the nearby interstellar jump points, so as to quickly contact the other party. When the two are too far apart, cross-domain over-distance message is a very good way to contact the other party. The disadvantage is that there is no way to make an instant call and contact, and they can only passively wait for the other party's reply. The distress message sent by Star-Lord before was a cross-domain long-distance message. This was how the message was quickly transmitted from planet Morag to the Golden Jack, near planet Tatooine in the shortest possible time. After comparison of the data, the remaining wreckage of the battle armor does belong to the Thanos army. These scattered wreckage of the spaceship that spread out like a beacon depicted an escape route to the interstellar jump point. They escaped, good job. Although he has not received a reply from the Milano, Rog can already be sure that Star-Lord and others have successfully escaped the pursuit of Thanos. Chapter 568. Let's talk about it, what happened? In the main control room of the Golden Jack, Rog saw Star-Lord and the others with a lonely look on their faces. After making an interstellar jump along the indicated route formed by the wreckage of the space fighter, he received a reply message from Star-Lord and others. After jumping 3 times in a row according to the coordinates sent by Star-Lord and others, he saw the scarred Milano. We found the universal spirit ball you wanted in the abandoned temple on planet Morag. Just when we took out the universal spirit ball, we were attacked by Ebony Throat and Black Dwarf. In order to escape from Ebony Throat and Black Dwarf as soon as possible, we decided to split up. Rocket and Groot were responsible for holding back Ebony Throat and the others, while Gamora and Drax took the opportunity to return to the Milano and then drove the spaceship to pick us up. But no one thought that Thanos would actually come in person. He snatched the Universal Spirit Ball and took away Gamora. Drax was lucky, he was just knocked unconscious and did not suffer any fatal injuries. Rocket and I couldn't wait for the spaceship, so we retreated while fighting and brought Drax, who was unconscious on the side of the road, back to the spaceship. Then Thanos sent a space fighter to chase us. We took the opportunity to send you a message and finally escaped here. Star-Lord briefly described what happened on planet Morag. Although he usually looks quite unreliable, he is still quite sober at critical moments. Of course, whether he can stay awake or not depends on luck. When things involve Gamora, the possibility of him losing control is very high. He is the man who punched out Avengers 4. Only small space fighters are chasing you? Didn't Temple 2 attack you? Rog asked with some puzzlement. According to his understanding of Thanos, Thanos has no habit of holding back against the enemy. No, although Temple 2 has been following us, it never appeared again after we made the first interstellar jump. There are not many small space fighters chasing us, only a dozen or so. Star-Lord also found that something was wrong, but like Rog, he couldn't figure out why Thanos had such an obvious behavior. Even if Temple Number 2 did not participate in the pursuit, as long as Thanos sent out more fighters, the difficulty of their escape would rise sharply, and they might not even survive until the moment of interstellar jump. Fix the Milano first. We'll talk about Gamora and the Universal Spiritual Ball later. After that, Rog left the main control room and went to his captain's room. Although he was somewhat reluctant, he had to admit that things were starting to develop in a tricky direction. Among the 6 Infinity Stones, the Power Stone is undoubtedly the most suitable one for Thanos, and it is also the one that increases his strength the most. As for time, space, soul, reality, mind, and other gems, they would at most add some additional attack methods and abilities. Compared with the last time he fought with Thanos, Rog's strength had indeed improved significantly. But compared with Thanos who got the Power Gem, his improvement was far from enough. How terrifying the Power Gem's amplification of Thanos can be seen by giving a simple example. Without the Power Gem, Thanos is at most a little stronger than the completely awakened Thor. And when he had the Power Gem, the completely awakened Thor was like an ordinary Asgard in front of him. He was the kind of opponent that he could crush at will. If the other 5 Infinity Stones can make Thanos infinitely close to the Divine Father level, then the Power Gem can make him a particularly good fighter among the Divine Fathers. The reason why there is such a big difference is not because the other 5 Infinity Stones are not as good as the Power Gem. It's because the Power Gem is the most suitable for Thanos, who has amazing physical strength and is extremely proficient in close combat. The Power Gem is an infinitely powerful physical force. It can allow the user to control all the power and energy they want to master, copy and replicate all physical superpowers, and let the user's own physical attack and defense capabilities reach the extreme. In addition, the Power Gem itself also contains a huge amount of energy, which can strengthen the effect of other gems or provide energy for other gems. For Rog, the Power Gem falling into the hands of Thanos is a more troublesome thing than the space, soul, and mind gems falling into the hands of Thanos. The fit between the Power Gem and Thanos is the same as the fit between the Time Gem and the Ancient One. It is a matter that will give the opponent a headache but helpless. This feeling, the ruler of the dark dimension, Domum, can be said to be deeply experienced. Although Thanos with the Power Gem will become very troublesome, he is not invincible. As long as the right time is found, there is still a chance to defeat him. And Thanos is not the only one who has the Infinity Stone. Rog also has the Reality Gem. Thinking of this, Rog sighed helplessly. He does have the Reality Gem, but his compatibility with the Reality Gem is far from high. To be honest, the Dark Elf King Malekith is more suitable to use the Reality Gem than him. At least Malekith can use the Reality Gem to create darkness that covers the entire universe when the 9 realms gather. After sitting at his desk and thinking seriously for more than 10 minutes, he made a decision. Find a helper, must find a helper. It is a very unwise choice to fight Thanos with the Power Gem by himself. After deciding to find a helper, his first reaction was to find the help of his cheap teacher, Ancient One. However, this plan was quickly abandoned by him. Ancient One with the Time Gem in hand is indeed very strong, but he will not be interested in these things. Unless Domum and Thanos join forces, otherwise, Ancient One will never agree to his request. Since Ancient One has been ruled out, his remaining choices are Thor, the goddess of death, Hela, and Igo, who is helping him take care of the divine tree. Igo can also be ruled out. Not to mention that he is now taking care of the divine tree. Even if he is willing to help, he will not have much effect. In Rog's judgment, Igo is the shame of the Heavenly Fathers. He has the level and ability of a Heavenly Father, but his actual combat power is extremely far apart. Igo will definitely have no problem dealing with small fries. Asking him to deal with Thanos with the Power Gem is no different from asking him to die. The Power Gem is a real planet killer. The Searcher of the Celestial Gods group once used the Power Gem to destroy a planet in one blow. And Igo just happens to be a planet. Chapter 569. Neither the Ancient One nor Igo were suitable, so there were only 2 choices, the goddess of death Hela and Thor. From a personal preference point of view, Rog wanted Thor to be his helper this time. In a state of extreme anger, Thor with the storm axe could seriously injure Thanos in his gem state. But the problem was that the current Thor could not enter this state of extreme anger at all. Although Odin and Queen Frigg had passed away, Asgard was still there, Loki and Thor's hammer were still there, and Thor was far from losing everything. In such a state, Thor could not exert the kind of peak combat power in Rog's memory. After thinking about it for more than 10 seconds, he finally gave up on the idea of asking Thor for help. In this way, the only person he could ask for help was the goddess of death Hela. In terms of strength, Hela was more suitable for this operation than Thor. But Hela's relationship with him was very ordinary, and he could not take out anything that Hela was interested in. If he remembered correctly, Hela should still be busy conquering Warnerheim and might not have time to deal with Thanos with him. I wonder how Warnerheim is now. However, with the sea god Njord and Gulwig, even if Hela had 2 armies of frost giants and flame giants, it would not be easy to take down Warnerheim. And Warnerheim not only had the army of Warner Protoss, but also the army of Asgard. Forget it, don't think about it, just go and ask. If she's willing, of course, it's best, if not, then forget it. Among the things he currently had, Rog could not find anything that could move Hela. And he did not want to give away his hard-earned collection. After making up his mind, he opened the portal to Muspelheim and came to the underground palace that once belonged to Surtur. When he walked out of the portal, he immediately felt the enthusiasm of Muspelheim, and the ubiquitous heat waves instantly enveloped him. After casually casting a adapt to the environment spell on himself, he took his time to observe his surroundings. In general, the appearance of this underground palace was not much different from the last time he came, and it was still rough and primitive. The only difference was that the simple and unadorned stone throne had been replaced by a more exquisite metal throne. What was more interesting was that the style of this metal throne was exactly the same as the throne in the hall of Asgard's Golden Palace. She really can't forget it. Obviously, Hela never gave up on her coveting Asgard's throne. However, he did not know why she did not directly start a war with Asgard but attacked Warnerheim instead. According to Rog's limited understanding of Hela, he guessed that Hela planned to imitate the war with Odin thousands of years ago and conquer the countries in the 9 realms one by one before finally having an ultimate battle with Thor in Asgard. Of course, only Hela herself knew if this was really her plan. Although there was no way to confirm whether Hela really thought this way, Rog felt that his guess was very likely correct. Hela had conquered the 9 realms with Odin back then, but after the war ended, not only did she not receive the glory she deserved, she was also exiled by Odin. For the proud Hela, this was a humiliating experience that she could not forget even if Odin was dead. Therefore, it was very likely that she would choose to use this method of conquering the 9 realms again to prove to everyone that Odin did not choose her to inherit Asgard back then. What a wrong choice it was. Thousands of years ago, she had to work together with Odin to conquer the 9 realms. But now, she could do it all by herself. If some villains and ups and downs were added, this was definitely the template of a main character in a web novel. While he was thinking, a flame giant about twice as tall as Rog came in front of him with a puzzled expression. #yen %yen #%. Although the flame giant's tone was polite, it was a pity that Rog could not understand a single word. No matter what, the flame giant was an intelligent race. It was normal for them to have their own language. Situations like the movies where all the intelligent races in the universe spoke English would only happen in movies. After casting a language proficiency spell on the flame giant, Rog asked casually, "Where is your queen?" "Her Majesty is commanding the war in Warnerheim." "If you want to find Her Majesty, you have to go to Warnerheim." Although Rog had only been to Muspelheim once, all the flame giants here, without exception, had heard of his name and knew what he looked like. The scene of him killing Surtur had left an indelible impression in the weak hearts of these flame giants. Although Surtur had lost his throne because of Hela's arrival, no matter what, Surtur was the king of the flame giants who had ruled Muspelheim for tens of thousands of years. This was the main reason why the flame giant was so polite after seeing Rog's arrival. Okay, I got it. Under the gaze of the flame giant, Rog cast a portal spell and came to the Asgard camp in Warnerheim from this scorching underground cave. When he walked out of the golden portal, the Asgard warriors around him quickly greeted him and looked at him with excitement. Rog was here. Rog, who had led them to defeat the Warner Protoss army twice, was here. Strictly speaking, Rog should have fought with the Asgard army 3 times. However, the battle in Jotunheim was directly ignored by these Asgard warriors. After all, that battle took place in Jotunheim, and the enemies were also frost giants and the undead army. It gave people a very different feeling. Where is your commander? I have some personal matters to discuss with him. After receiving the latest information from the camp commander, he did not hesitate and once again cast the teleportation magic. Warnerheim, in Hela's commander's tent. You want me to help you deal with Thanos? If I remember correctly, I told you last time that when we meet again, I won't be so easy to talk to. As soon as her voice fell, an amazing momentum emerged from Hela's body. Along with this astonishing aura, there was also a divine power of death that was so dense that it was almost tangible. Even if you don't agree, you don't have to have such a big reaction, right? At the moment when Hela released the divine power of death, Rog also released the same vast chakra to fight against Hela's pressure. Divine power of death versus chakra. Chapter 570. Compared to the last time they met, Hela's divine power of death had improved significantly. The only uncertainty was whether this improvement was due to her loss to Rog in Jotunheim or a natural increase brought about by her talent. Fortunately, she was not the only one whose strength had improved significantly. Rog's strength had also improved significantly. While Hela had only released her aura and divine power of death, this action of hers still caused the frost giants and flame giants outside to enter battle mode immediately. Within a few seconds, a large number of flame giants and frost giants had gathered outside the commander's tent. While these flame giants and frost giants had arrived around the tent, none of them dared to step inside. Hela had not ruled them for very long, but the fear she had left in their hearts was stronger than anyone else's. Never disobey any of Hela's orders. Never appear when you shouldn't appear. Don't do anything without permission. There were many similar nevers, and there were some slight differences due to the different races. For example, the flame giants could not release their innate high temperature when near Hela, and the frost giants could not provide Hela with food that was too cold. Are we really not going in? It seems like the fight inside is very intense. Go if you want. I'll try my best to bring your ashes back to Muspelheim. There shouldn't be any fighting inside, right? There aren't any sounds of fighting. You're too young. You still don't understand the battle between men and women, you're finished. You actually dare to imagine such a scene in your mind. You're dead. Unlike the frost giants who were born with a calm aura, the flame giants around the tent began to whisper and discuss the situation in the tent. While the flame giants had deliberately lowered their voices and used their flame giant language with a particularly heavy accent, their actions still caused the frost giants to look down on them. A bunch of idiots whose brains have been roasted. How dare you talk about Her Majesty's matters? You really don't know how to write the word death. While the flame giants were chattering, the frost giants tacitly remained silent and did not say a word. Not only did these frost giants have no intention of talking, but they also closed their eyes. Some of the frost giants even sealed their ears with ice. Don't speak, don't look, don't listen. Well, if you don't intend to attack me, can we stop this meaningless competition? Rog originally thought that Hela would choose to attack immediately after unleashing her god of death. However, it was clear that the situation did not develop in this worst-case scenario. Since they didn't fight, it meant that there was still room for negotiation. Humph. After hearing Log's suggestion of a truce, Hela looked at him with the eyes of a queen who was born high up in the air. Then, she started to retract her terrifying aura and death divine energy. When her aura and divine power of death showed signs of weakening, Rog immediately retracted his chakra and aura. A few seconds later, the atmosphere in the tent returned to its initial calm state. I didn't expect you to be on par with me now. Looks like the talents of Earthlings still have some redeeming qualities. While Gila's tone gave people a feeling of being high and mighty, Rog was already used to her queen-like tone. I was just lucky to have improved a little. Rog took the initiative to lower his posture and answered unhurriedly. While he might not lose to Gila in a real fight, considering that he was asking for Gila's help, it was normal for him to lower his posture. It was not shameful to be humble when asking for help. Facing an existence like Gila, who was born noble and had outstanding strength, being stubborn would only be counterproductive. This was just like stroking a cat, one had to stroke it according to its fur. Alright, you don't have to put on such an attitude in front of me. Just say it, what can you give me in return? You're a ninja. You should know better than anyone that without a satisfactory reward, no one is willing to help. Gila crossed her right leg and sat on the metal chair that was similar to an Asgard's throne. The things in my hands, even if I'm willing to give them to you, are just some small things to you. So, if you don't mind, I hope to use 2 equal promises in exchange for your help this time. Of course, I'll forget about the assassination of Thor. He's a knot in your heart. If I kill him, you won't be happy either. Other than Thor, everyone else can be discussed. For example, Loki. If you don't like him, I'll go and kill him now. What do you think? Log might have said a lot, but there was only one thing he was trying to say: he could not give Gila anything that could move her. Of course, in order to prevent Gila from asking him to assassinate Saul again, he purposely used his words to push Gila out of this possibility. If he guessed correctly, Gila would definitely not let Thor die in the hands of others. He did not think of this when they met last time. But after seeing the metal chair Gila was sitting on and the metal throne in Muspelheim, he was more than 90% sure. Do you and Thor usually communicate like this? After more than 10 seconds of silence, Gila said again. More or less. Friends, you help me, I help you, that's it. Having said that, all Rog could do was wait for Gila's final reply. If Gila really didn't want to, then he could only take the reality gem and have a fair one-on-one competition with Thanos, who had the power gem. 2 promises are not enough, I want 3. If you agree, I can agree to your request this time. Gila raised her right hand, raised 3 fingers, and gave a final reply. 3 is 3, I'm fine with it. 3 promises with unknown details in exchange for Gila's help. This seemed to be a bit of a loss, but it was not particularly a loss. It was not the first time Gila dealt with him. She knew what kind of personality he had, so she was unlikely to make a particularly outrageous request. This also meant that these 3 promises were very likely to be 3 ordinary commissioned missions. Chapter 571. If this is the case, Rog feels that he doesn't know if he has lost or not, but he has made a small profit. Perhaps this is the so-called, you may make a profit, but I will never lose. Then it's a deal. How do I contact you then? Although Gila agreed to his request, it was obvious that she was not likely to follow him all over the universe to find Thanos, so Rog directly asked for Gila's contact information. After saying this, it inexplicably reminded him of the feeling of asking a girl for her WeChat number. On this contact crystal, there is the communication magic circle and death divine power left by me. As long as you are still in this universe, crush it, and I can sense your location at any time. Of course, if you are willing to take the initiative to come and pick me up, I don't mind. After speaking, Gila cast space magic to summon a fist-sized green crystal and threw it at Rog casually. The green crystal drew a beautiful parabola in the air and fell in front of him with incomparable precision. After catching the green crystal, Rog put the crystal in the psychic scroll, then said goodbye to Gila, opened the portal and returned to the Golden Jack. Now that the helper has been found, the next thing to do is to find Thanos, who has gone somewhere. Although there is no information about the whereabouts of Thanos, Rog already has a suspicious target in his mind. Thanos' home planet, Titan Star. Although Titan Star has completely declined, Titan Star still has an irreplaceable important position in Thanos' heart. It is precisely because he witnessed Titan Star turn from a prosperous planet to a dead planet because of excessive population that Thanos had a crazy plan to eliminate half of the universe's population. So after getting the Power Stone, Thanos is likely to return to Titan Star with Gamora. In the original timeline, after Thanos captured Gamora, Star-Lord and others also went to Titan Star to rescue Gamora. As a result, they accidentally bumped into Tony and Doctor Strange's group. Finally, they had a battle with Thanos on Titan Star where they bullied Gamora with more people. In that battle, Tony and Star-Lord and others originally had a chance to win. Unfortunately, this opportunity was ruined by the impulsive Star-Lord, which eventually led to the death of half of the life in the universe. After thinking for a while, Rog made the decision to go to Titan Star. Even if Thanos is not on Titan Star, he will make Titan Star a battlefield for him and Thanos. This was not only to commemorate the Battle of Titan Star that had disappeared but also to minimize the collateral damage caused by the battle. Anyway, the civilization of Titan Star had been destroyed, and there was no other life on it. Even if he and Thanos fought fiercely there, he didn't have to worry about destroying the environment or affecting other innocent lives. Jack, calculate the repair time of the Milano and send the current coordinates to Noah of the Slave Hunters. Tell him to come over and tell him that I need his help. Although the battleship's AI system was called Sparrow, Rog still preferred to call it Jack. This Jack was not the Jack of the Golden Jack, but the Jack of Captain Jack Sparrow. Yes, sir. The mechanical synthetic voice of a man and a woman sounded immediately. After instructing Jack, Rog directly started training in the captain's room and took out the reality magic cube stored in the Taiha treasure hall. Soon, he will fight Thanos. If he can improve his own strength a little bit, he will improve it a little bit. He doesn't want to lose to Thanos because of this insignificant chakra when the time comes. Time passed little by little, and soon, 3 days have passed since Thanos took the Universal Spirit Ball. In these 3 days, although Rog's immortal body progress still remained at 95% progress, his chakra amount still improved to a certain extent. However, these improvements are not enough to be displayed in the system's character panel for the time being. In addition, after these 3 days of maintenance, Star-Lord's Milano has also recovered to its best state, and with the help of Jack, it has added a lot of firepower. As for Noah of the Slave Hunters, he met with Rog on the Golden Jack 3 days ago and accepted the task of finding the location of Thanos. At first, Noah was still a little reluctant to accept this task. After all, this has more or less a tendency to be an enemy of Thanos. Rog saw his worry, so he gave Noah a guarantee that was enough to tempt him. As long as the slave hunters can find the whereabouts of Thanos this time, the slave hunters can not only borrow his reputation in the future, but also when the slave hunters encounter an enemy that they can't deal with, he will personally help the slave hunters. Simply put, from then on, the slave hunters will accept his protection, and it will not just be a nominal protection. After Rog gave his conditions, Noah readily agreed to Rog and began to use the slave hunters' intelligence network to find Thanos. Although slave hunting is not a very serious industry, these professions wandering in the gray area have a significant characteristic, that is, they have more friends and more information. The place where the good and the bad mix is often the area where information flows the fastest. Noah did not disappoint Rog's expectations. It only took 3 days for him to confirm the location of Thanos and bring back unexpected news. Thanos found Luo Nan, the controller, and under Luo Nan's leadership, they went to Hala, the mother planet of the Kari Empire. After hearing this news, Rog, who was in the middle of cultivation, frowned unconsciously. He was not surprised that Thanos could contact Luo Nan. To some extent, Thanos and Luo Nan were the same kind of people. They were the kind of people who could achieve their goals by any means. But the problem was that he couldn't understand why Thanos would find Luo Nan at this time and go to Hala, the mother planet of the Keri Empire, with Luo Nan. There must be a demon when things are abnormal. Although Rog still didn't know what Thanos and Luo Nan were planning to do, this made him instinctively aware that something was wrong and there was a trace of danger. Thanos was not the kind of person who would do things as he pleased. Every move he made was the result of careful consideration. Keri Empire. Just when Roger was pondering over what kind of existence was in the Keri Empire that was worth Thanos personally making a trip there and even needed to join forces with Luo Nan, an existence that he had never come into contact with, but he had heard of its ability, surfaced in his mind. The controller of the Keri Empire, Supreme Wisdom. When the name of the Supreme Wisdom appeared in his mind, he suddenly realized something. Chapter 572. The thing that Thanos Overlord wanted the most now was definitely the Infinity Stone. Especially after getting the Power Stone, his desire for the other 5 Infinity Stones would also be significantly improved. So at this time, Thanos Overlord went to the Keri Empire for the Infinity Stone. If Thanos Overlord just led his troops to Hala, the mother planet of the Keri Empire, although it was somewhat abnormal, it would make sense. Because no one could be sure that Thanos Overlord was not on a whim and intended to stage a crazy plan of kill half and leave the other half in the Keri Empire. But now, he was not going alone or with his troops, but with Ronan, the accuser, to Hala, which was very interesting. Don't look at Ronan because he lost to Rog and became the background of Rog's fame as the 4th Hokage. But in fact, Ronan did not lose to Rog twice, which led to a decline in his power and status in the Keri Empire. Now, he was still the supreme accuser of the Keri Empire's accuser group, holding the absolute power of the accuser group and controlling the frontline troops of the Keri Empire. If what Thanos Overlord wanted the most now was the Infinity Stone, then what Ronan wanted the most now was to completely destroy the Nova Corps and Xander. With Ronan's own strength, it was absolutely difficult for him to fulfill his wish. But now, the opportunity to fulfill his wish had come. Thanos Overlord, to be precise, had the Power Stone. Under the buff of the Power Stone, Thanos Overlord could completely destroy the entire planet with one blow like the Heavenly Gods Group's Searcher. And this was the main reason why Ronan worked hard to find the Power Stone before. After combining these factors, a general idea emerged in Rog's mind. Thanos Overlord wanted to get the other 5 Infinity Stones, and he already knew the whereabouts of some of the gems. For example, the Space Stone was in Asgard, the Time Stone was in the hands of Sorcerer Supreme, the Mind Stone was in the head of Illusion, and the Reality Stone was in his hands. The whereabouts of these gems may be a secret for others. But for Thanos Overlord, who had been looking for the Infinity Stone, it was definitely not a secret. Plus the Power Stone in his hand, 5 of the 6 Infinity Stones had a clear whereabouts, so only the last Infinity Stone, the Soul Stone, was temporarily unknown. Coincidentally, Thanos had sent Gamora to look for soul gems before. Although the news that Gamora reported back was that she did not find the soul gem, Thanos Overlord may not believe Gamora's statement. In the past, perhaps because of their father-daughter relationship, he would temporarily choose to believe or tolerate Gamera's deception. However, after he obtained the power gem, he might not continue to tolerate this. So if his guess was correct, Rog guessed that Thanos knew early on that Gamora was hiding it from him. And the reason why he looked for Luo Nan at this time was to find the whereabouts of the soul gem from Gamora's memory. Although Luo Nan was unable to search Gamora's memories, the Keri Empire's Supreme Intelligence could. As long as Gamora was brought before the Supreme Intelligence, the Supreme Intelligence would be able to find information related to the soul gem from Gamora's memories. Perhaps Thanos wanted to borrow Luo Nan's power to meet with the Supreme Wisdom. Of course, Thanos could also choose to directly attack the mother planet of the Carey Empire, Hala, and force the Supreme Intelligence to search Gamera's memory. But in this way, the time and energy needed to be consumed would also increase exponentially. Perhaps it was because of this consideration that Thanos Overlord and Luo Nan reached some agreements. For example, Luo Nan requested the Supreme Intelligence to search Gamera's memory, and Thanos Overlord helped Luo Nan completely destroy Xander. Such a deal, whether it was for Thanos Overlord or for Luo Nan, was a small investment with high returns. After understanding this point, Rog did not immediately go to the Carey Empire. Instead, he carefully recalled the name of the planet where the soul gem was located in his mind. He needed to sacrifice his true love to obtain the soul gem, and the paternity tester, Red Skull, became the guide for the soul gem. He remembered these things very deeply. But he could not remember the name of the planet he wanted to know the most now. Damn it! What was the name of the planet again? Rog never felt that his memory was bad. On the contrary, he felt that he had a particularly good memory. However, no matter how he recalled now, he just could not remember the name of the planet. Fuck. Don't think about it. Go directly to Hala. After trying to recall for nearly half an hour, and even using magic to help his memory, Rog, who still got nothing in the end, finally gave up the plan to kill the paternity tester, Red Skull, before Thanos Overlord got the soul gem. With Thanos Overlord's feelings for Gamora, if he did not know clearly that sacrificing Gamora could get the soul gem, he would never have done something like throwing Gamora off the altar. This is not a problem that the soul gem is not important enough, it is purely because the risk is not proportional to the benefit. He would never take a huge risk to gamble on uncertain benefits. Thanos Overlord is such a person, and so is Rog. After giving up the plan to kill Red Skull in advance, Rog called Star-Lord and others to the main control room of the battleship and told them about Thanos Overlord and Gamera's trip to the Carey Empire. As he expected, after knowing Gamera's whereabouts, Star-Lord immediately showed an expression that he was going to fight Thanos now. He said with a murderous look on his face, "Then what are we waiting for? Let's go to Hara now, kill Thanos, and save Gamora." He doesn't know if it's because Kami's energy gave him courage, or he didn't put Thanos Overlord and Hala in his eyes at all. In his mouth, Thanos Overlord has become a person who can be killed if he wants to, and Hala has become a place where he can go if he wants to. Do you know where Hala is? Rog asked unhurriedly. Isn't Hala the home planet of the Carey Empire? Star-Lord didn't quite understand what Rog meant. You also know that Hala is the home planet of the Carey Empire, then you should also know that the Carey Empire is one of the 3 empires in the universe. You should know how powerful they are without me telling you. Although Rog doesn't put any Carey in his eyes, this doesn't mean that he can ignore the Carey Empire. Humans on Earth can develop weapons of mass destruction like nuclear weapons, and the Carey Empire will certainly have their own strategic deterrent force. Although the Carey Empire is not famous for its individual combat power in the universe, one of the 3 empires in the universe is not self-proclaimed by the Carey people, but it is a real war. Its military power is also unquestionably first class in the universe. Chapter 573. Rog had previously allowed Xander's delegation to return to Xander from Hala, but the situation at that time was completely different from now. Quietly going to Hala is not a big problem for him, he just needs to open a portal. But the problem is what to do when he gets to Hala. Although Ronan had a good relationship with him before, at this time, the friendship between him and Ronan is as fragile as a piece of white paper, and it is not strong at all. Even if the current Luo Nan sold him to Thanos, he wouldn't feel surprised. After all, the things that Thanos could give were much more than what he could give. I know that the Carey Empire is very strong, but even if the Carey Empire is strong, we have to rescue Gamora, we have to rescue her from Thanos. Star-Lord's attitude eased a lot, but his plan to rescue Gamora did not change at all. If you don't mind, you can leave the matter of rescuing Gamora from Thanos to me. In addition, if possible, I hope you can distract the Carry Empire's attention. Of course, if you feel that a few of you are not strong enough, you can contact Yondu, he should not refuse your request. After speaking, Rog glanced at Star-Lord, who had not fully reacted. Yondu? Will he be willing to help us? Although he was raised by Yondu, Star-Lord has no confidence in his adoptive father. If it weren't for the fact that he fought against Igo with Yondu before and eliminated some misunderstandings between them, he would still regard Yondu as the culprit who created his tragic life. If nothing unexpected happens, he will. Rog said in a certain tone. Okay, then I'll contact Yondu, but I'm not sure if he will agree. After a few seconds of silence, Star-Lord said embarrassedly. Then it's decided first. I will go to Hala to fight against Thanos and rescue Gamora. You and Yondu will be responsible for containing the Carry Empire's troops and Thanos' army. After I rescue Gamora, you can retreat. I will take care of the rest. Although Star-Lord and others are good bounty hunters, they are still a little too weak when fighting against Thanos. Even Star-Lord, who has awakened heavenly energy, can't help much when facing Thanos. Are you sure you can do it alone? He's the mad titan Thanos. Star-Lord didn't say anything, but Rocket asked with a little worry at this time. Don't underestimate a ninja from Earth, I am very strong. To Rog, saving Gamora wasn't a particularly important matter. For Star-Lord, Gamora may be very important, maybe even as important as his deceased mother. But from Rog's point of view, Gamora's most important value was that she knew where the soul gem was. Leaving Gamora with Thanos is no different from leaving the soul gem with Thanos. Although Roger couldn't remember which planet the soul gem was on, he remembered one thing very clearly. That was, Gamora was Thanos Overlord's true love, and was the only person who met Thanos Overlord's sacrificial requirements. So whether it is to find out the whereabouts of the soul gem from Gamora, or to increase the difficulty of obtaining the soul gem for Thanos, he must rescue Gamora from Thanos. After formulating a general strategy, Rog didn't waste time waiting for Yondu's reply and directly opened the portal to the Carry Empire's home planet, Hala. In a small alley on Hala, a circular portal shining with golden sparks quickly formed. In the next second, Rog, who was still on the Golden Jack, came to this small alley that even the local Carry people didn't pass by much. After closing the portal, Rog psychically took out the universal language translator he had used before from the psychic scroll. After wearing it, he cast the transformation technique and became an ordinary Carry with blue skin. After completing the disguise, he began to head to Ronan's mansion. The last time he came to Hala, he went to Ronan's mansion once. But this time, he did not directly open the portal in Ronan's mansion, but opened it in an alley not far from Ronan's mansion. The reason why he did this was to avoid an unexpected encounter with Thanos. Although he was ready to fight with Thanos, Planet Hala was not the battlefield he expected, and now the time was not particularly suitable. Sneaking in was the basic skill of a ninja. Even if Ronan's mansion had a large number of guards and various high-tech monitoring equipment, this still did not have any impact on Rog's sneak. Without much effort, he came to the interior of Ronan's mansion and walked toward the target of his perception. Before entering Ronan's mansion, he deliberately used chakra perception to perceive the situation of the mansion in detail. Thanos was not there. Ronan was not there either. Although there were a lot of life signals in the mansion, none of them could really attract his attention. To be precise, it couldn't be said that there were none. Although he did not perceive the life signals of Thanos and Ronan, he perceived a life signal that he had seen before. Nebula, another adopted daughter of Thanos. Unlike Gamora, who hated Thanos, Nebula had a sick worship for Thanos. Although it was Thanos' decision that caused her to become a half-human, half-machine existence, she did not resent Thanos because of this. Instead, she regarded Gamora as the target of hatred. Because he did not pay special attention to Nebula's news before, Rog was not sure whether the current Nebula was the one who worshipped Thanos or the one who regarded Gamora as her sister. But no matter what state Nebula was in now, it did not prevent him from seeing Nebula now. Nebula's current life signal state was very wrong, which reminded him of the scene when Thanos used Nebula's life to threaten Gamora. After avoiding the patrolling guards, Rog came to the room where Nebula was without alerting anyone. Strictly speaking, this was not a room, but a prison located in the basement of the mansion. Or rather, it was an interrogation room. After dealing with the guards at the door, Rog entered the interrogation room and saw Nebula, who was dismembered. Where did Thanos and Gamora go? Rog asked slowly as he came in front of Nebula, who seemed to have been disassembled into parts and was floating in the air. You are Rog? Nebula asked weakly after looking up and down at Rog, who had removed the transformation technique's effect with her mechanical right eye. Yes, it's me. Where did Thanos and your sister Gamora go? Rog repeated the question. Chapter 574. I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you. After hearing Rog's answer, Nebula, who couldn't move, suddenly became extremely agitated, shouting at Rog as if he had met an enemy. What's wrong with this guy? Is he crazy? Looking at the suddenly agitated Nebula, Rog silently stepped back and frowned. He wasn't worried about what harm Nebula could do to him now. He just didn't want Nebula to suddenly go crazy and spit on himself. You can't kill me like this. If you don't mind answering a few of my questions, I may be able to assemble you and give you a chance to do it yourself. Rog has rich experience in dealing with lunatics. After all, in the eyes of others, he sometimes looks like a lunatic, so he knows how to communicate with people like Nebula. Nebula, who originally wanted to swallow Logue alive, quickly calmed down after hearing his words. He looked at Logue with eyes full of murderous intent and no longer spoke. Since you don't want to say it, then let me guess. If I guess wrong, you can correct me. Rog ignored Nebula's murderous eyes and said calmly. Then, he sorted out his thoughts and continued, if I'm not wrong, it was Thanos Lord who made you like this. As for the reason, I think Thanos Lord should have used you to threaten Gamora and wanted to get some information from Gamora's mouth. But it's a pity that Gamora didn't care about your safety and still kept the secret. Your safety can't be used to threaten Gamora, so in Thanos Lord's view, you have no meaning to exist. He was too lazy to assemble you back and threw you here like garbage. At this point, Rog suddenly changed the thread of discussion and said, Thanos Lord is now taking Gamora to find supreme wisdom, intending to forcibly obtain the whereabouts of the soul gem from Gamora's memory, right? Nebula didn't expect Rog to suddenly mention supreme wisdom and instinctively looked at Rog. Although the Nebula had been dissected into pieces, her thinking ability wasn't greatly affected. She quickly reacted. He wants to pry information about Thanos Lord from my mouth. Nebula, who thought she had seen through Rog's plan, showed a disdainful expression, snorted with a nasal sound, and then became completely silent. You're indeed Thanos Lord's adopted daughter, your reaction is very fast. Rog praised Nebula. However, just as Nebula was about to mock Rog for his simple probe, Rog continued, your reaction is indeed very fast, but your expression has already told me the answer. Your subconscious expression just now has already betrayed your true thoughts. So, thank you for your cooperation. Looking at the stunned Nebula, Rog did not do anything. He left the cell and headed towards the Kree Empire's Great Hall, where the Supreme Intelligence was located. Now he could basically confirm that his previous guess was correct. Thanos Lord really tried to use the ability of Supreme Wisdom to forcibly read Gamora's memory. Because of this, Thanos Lord found Ronan, who was in charge of the frontline command, and reached a cooperation agreement with Ronan. Although he had figured out Thanos Lord's plan, Rog was not happy at all at this time. Judging from Nebula's reaction just now, Thanos Lord and Gamora should have just left Ronan's mansion not long ago. Maybe they were half an hour or 10 minutes earlier than him. Judging from the time, Thanos Lord should not have gotten the news of the soul gem from Kimura. However, this was still not good news for him. Because this meant that he was likely to have a showdown with Thanos Lord on Hala, instead of the final duel on Titan Star. While heading to the Congress Hall where Supreme Wisdom was located, Rog had been considering whether to call Warnerheim's Gila in advance. After some cautious thinking, he temporarily dispelled this idea. Once he called Gila, he could only have a showdown with Thanos Lord on Hala, which was not in line with the Titan Star plan that he had previously formulated. Through the high-speed hover train in the city, Rog arrived near the Congress Hall where Supreme Wisdom was located. Although the Congress Hall was a landmark building in the city, there were not many Kree people who could really enter the Congress Hall. Except for the Congress members and military commanders such as Ronan, only a small number of Kree people with authority could enter the Congress Hall. Although Rog did not have the authority to legally enter the Congress Hall, this was not difficult for him, who was proficient in illusion. Relying on the illusion of Sharingan, he easily passed through the outermost guard inspection of the Congress Hall and walked into the Congress Hall openly. However, it was not so easy to enter the core area of the Congress Hall, which was the palace where Supreme Wisdom was located. And he didn't know if it was his own illusion, but when he stepped into the Congress Hall, Rog had a feeling that he was being watched. This feeling was a bit like entering a room full of surveillance cameras, and his every move was exposed to the eyes of the guards in the monitoring room. This was a kind of intuition, or rather, a kind of super sense brought about by the increase in strength. Although this feeling made him feel uncomfortable, Rog did not care too much about it. If he guessed correctly, this feeling of being monitored should come from the Supreme Wisdom. In terms of life form, Supreme Wisdom was just a life computer. But on Hala, the Supreme Wisdom had the power of a god. So it was not particularly difficult to understand that Supreme Wisdom could discover his arrival. After confirming the location of Thanos and Ronan with chakra perception, Rog walked in their direction while adjusting his state so that he could erupt into his strongest combat posture at any time. When he came to the core area of the Congress Hall, in front of the palace where the Supreme Wisdom was located, he saw two tall figures, one blue and one purple. The blue one was Rog's old friend, Ronan. As for the purple one, he was Thanos, who was known as the Mad Titan and the Emperor of the Universe. You really came. At this time, although Rog did not remove the effect of the transformation technique, Thanos seemed to have seen through his disguise and said in a majestic tone, "You robbed me, of course I have to come to get justice." Rog pointed to the power gem on Thanos' gloves and replied in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. Chapter 575. As a traveler, Rog was no stranger to the glove worn on Thanos' left hand. Infinity Glove. Whether it was the color or the style, even the position of the power gem, it was exactly the same as the Infinity Glove in his memory. However, one thing was different from what he remembered. That was, the Infinity Glove in Thanos' hand should not be the one made by Dwarf King Ai Chui. If it was in the normal timeline, Thanos threatened Dwarf King Ai Chui with the lives of more than 300 dwarves on Na'vi, and let Ai Chui create the Infinity Glove that could withstand the power of 6 Infinity Stones. But now, the dwarves of Na'vi are still living well and have not been threatened by Thanos. Although the Infinity Glove used by Thanos at this time was not made by Dwarf King Ai Chui, Rog did not doubt the quality of this Infinity Glove. Thanos was crazy, but he was also a very cautious person. He would never use a fake and inferior product that did not pass the quality test. The last time we met on Saga, I had a feeling that you seemed to know me very well, so I asked people to investigate you, including your experiences on Earth. But the feedback is that you are just an ordinary Earthling. Having said that, Thanos paused for a moment, and then continued, "No, you are not ordinary at all. It took you less than 10 years to grow from an ordinary person to a famous person in the universe. Your growth rate, even looking at the whole universe, is definitely among the top, which makes me even more curious about how you did it." Thanos said in a declarative tone while slowly walking down the stairs, and finally came to a place only 3 meters away from Rog. "I'll accept your compliment." Looking at Thanos, who was close at hand and obviously taller than himself, Rog replied with an indifferent face. "If we didn't have different positions, we might have been friends. However, it's a pity." Although Thanos said it sincerely, Rog had no intention of becoming friends with Thanos. What a joke! Thanos is a ruthless person who can even throw his true love off the cliff in order to achieve his goal. Being friends with such a person, you don't know when he will backstab you. "No, it's not a pity at all," Rog replied in a serious tone. If someone else spoke to him in this tone, Thanos Overlord would definitely use his fist to tell the other party what it meant to respect the strong. However, the person who said this to him was Rog, which made him temporarily dispel this idea. Although Thanos and Rog had only fought once, that fight left a very deep impression on him. Susanoo, Flying Thor Chop, Odama Rasengan, Wood Human Jutsu, Wood Dragon Jutsu, these powerful ninjutsu that have never appeared in this world not only aroused the long-lost curiosity of Thanos, but also made him have a strong interest in Rog, a ninja from the Earth. Since that battle, Thanos began to collect information about him intentionally, and even sent people to Earth to collect information. Let's cut to the chase. If I'm not mistaken, other than seeking justice, you're here to rescue Gamora, right? Thanos Overlord put away the relaxed look on his face and said with a serious face. "You're right, so let's fight directly." As soon as his voice fell, Rog's right hand condensed an Odama Rasengan with a diameter of 1 meter and attacked Thanos Overlord with lightning. With a distance of less than 3 meters, as long as his right hand gently pushed forward, he could hit the Odama Rasengan on Thanos Overlord. Rog's shot was as fast as thunder, but Thanos Overlord's reaction was not slow either. The madly rotating Odama Rasengan had just formed, and Thanos Overlord's huge right fist smashed towards his head. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the Odama Rasengan and Thanos Overlord's right fist fiercely collided together. The eruption of chakra turbulence instantly formed a terrifying storm, blowing Rog and Thanos Overlord away at the same time. Breaking the Odama Rasengan with one punch, this kind of thing can only be done by Thanos Overlord with his physical strength. Taking advantage of being blown away by the chakra turbulence, Rog opened the Byakugan specially prepared for Thanos Overlord. Byakugan, open. Before the person landed, his vision was switched to the super vision unique to Byakugan. Through Byakugan, he saw the majestic life energy in Thanos Overlord's body like a star, saw the terrifying body beyond the biological limit, and saw the perfect life evolution. God's body. He didn't know why, after seeing through Thanos Overlord's body with Byakugan's insight and X-ray vision, Rog's mind instinctively came up with this description. Perfect. Undeniably perfect. This was simply the most perfect body that a warrior could have. Compared with Thanos Overlord's body, Hulk's physical fitness was 1 or 2 levels lower. No wonder Thanos Overlord could use a simple set of combos to stun Hulk. The two of them were not on the same level at all. Putting away the shock in his heart, Rog took a deep breath, clapped his hands hard, and chakra in his body instantly transformed into chakra. Shikatsu Forest Sage Mode. Just by looking at it with Byakugan, Rog knew that his current Sage Mode body could not compete with Thanos Overlord's body. So he did not hesitate and immediately entered Sage Mode. Thanos Overlord, who had regained his balance, glanced at Rog, who had red eyeshadow and circular patterns on his face, and his face showed a smile with unknown meaning. Although Thanos Overlord did not have any energy attack means, there was no other energy in his body except for the incredible life energy. But this did not mean that his energy use skills and sensing ability would be weak. Although he didn't know what Rog had just done, he could clearly perceive that Rog's physical strength had soared a lot in an instant. A bit interesting. After perceiving that Rog's physical strength had soared a lot in an instant, Thanos Overlord did not hesitate and immediately attacked Rog. The distance of more than 10 meters passed in the blink of an eye. Thanos Overlord's huge right fist once again appeared in front of Rog. Facing Thanos Overlord's attack, Rog did not intend to dodge or use ninjutsu at all. He also raised his right fist and met Thanos Overlord's right fist head-on. Boom! The two fists, one big and one small, fiercely collided together, and a shock wave visible to the naked eye gushed out from the two fists like a storm. Rog's right fist did not retreat at all, but the difference in size made him fall into an invisible disadvantage. The floor under his feet shattered inch by inch, and a round pit more than 1 meter long appeared on the ground. Chapter 576. Excluding the difference in size, Rog in Sage Mode was not weaker than Thanos in physical strength. But he couldn't rely on the buff brought by Sage Mode to suppress Thanos. So, a slightly awkward question was placed in front of him. If necessary, he could maintain Sage Mode for a few hours. But no matter how long he could maintain it, he couldn't compare with Thanos in terms of endurance. Just how did this guy train? This was too unreasonable. Although Rog didn't know other Titan people, he could be 100% sure that Thanos' physical fitness was definitely not the normal physical fitness of Titan people. If every Titan had such abnormal physical strength, the universe would have been ruled by Titan people long ago. The physical strength gap between Thanos and other Titan people may be greater than the gap between Thor and other Asgard people. Compared with the last time, you have improved a lot. You can actually block my full blow. Thanos didn't expect that Rog, who was physically weak when they met last time, could actually compete with him in physical strength this time. You want to beat me down with one punch? Aren't you looking down on me too much? As he spoke, Rog mobilized the Immortal technique chakra in his body and silently cast a buff type of physical technique. Immortal technique, monstrous strength. The physical strength that had reached the limit, under the buff of Immortal technique, monstrous strength, increased a little bit, allowing Rog to burst out with power that exceeded the physical load. Break for me. With this power that exceeded the physical load, Rog successfully pushed back Thanos' right fist, making Thanos uncontrollably take a few steps back. Without having time to feel the tingling from his right arm, Rog came forward like a ghost and came in front of Thanos, who had not yet recovered his balance. Soft fist, 8 trigrams 64 palms. Under Thanos' surprised gaze, Rog turned his fist into a palm. His two arms were like a Gatling gun that madly discharged bullets, hitting him one palm after another. After that punch, Rog completely dispelled the idea of using steel fist to deal with Thanos. 8 palms, 16 palms, 32 palms, 64 palms. At this time, Rog showed the fastest fist speed since he mastered the soft fist. In less than a second, all 64 palms of the 8 trigrams were vented on Thanos. Since there was no energy other than life energy in Thane Overlord's body, the focus of his 8 trigrams 64 palms this time was not to cut off the energy flow in Thane Overlord's body, but to destroy the key muscles and nerves needed to move the body. Although the body structure is not exactly the same, in any case, Thanos has 2 arms and 2 legs like the people on Earth. The general principle of activity is still the same. After hitting the 8 trigrams 64 palms on Thanos, Rog did not stop attacking, but added an ultimate skill. 8 trigrams, Mountain Breaker. Chakra, which was infused with natural energy, gushed out of his right palm like a laser and instantly hit Thanos' chest. Boom! A dull thump sounded like a war drum. The tall Thanos flew like a baseball to the palace where the Supreme Wisdom was located and hit the nearly 20-meter-high metal gate heavily. When Thanos hit the metal gate, Rog finally breathed a sigh of relief and shook his right hand that was tingling and slightly numb. Although Thanos was hit, he was not happy at all. The melee fight just now not only did not let him see the hope of winning, but it also made him realize the huge gap in physical fitness between himself and Thanos. Sage mode plus the 95% development of the Sage body barely tied with Thanos Overlord's physical fitness. This was bad news for him who was trying to seize Thanos's power gem. Although he just hit Thanos and hit the 8 trigrams 64 palms on Thanos's body, he still had no idea how much power the 8 trigrams 64 palms could exert. And in terms of difficulty, the Thanos just now was not even as tricky as the Saga star. Now Thanos was not holding the huge and powerful double-edged sword, nor was he wearing the armor with amazing defense. He was not at his peak state at all. More importantly, Thanos just now did not use the power gem at all. Commander Luo Nan witnessed the entire process of Luo Gu and Thanos fighting. Although he was wearing a full set of armor and was holding his famous weapon, the omnipotent weapon, Warhammer, he didn't have the slightest intention of joining the battle. Not only that, after the battle between Rog and Thanos began, he also used his authority to stop the guards who tried to arrest Rog, so that the two of them had an undisturbed fighting environment. After hitting Thanos, Rog did not continue to launch attacks. Instead, he used the Byakugan to carefully observe the state of Thanos to confirm the final effect of the 8 trigrams 64 palms. After carefully examining the internal situation of Thanos's body, he sighed helplessly. The 8 trigrams 64 palms that could cause serious, internal injuries to the enemy did not show the power it should have at this time. Some damage to the internal organs and meridians did appear in Thanos's body, but these, internal injuries, were far from serious. They could not achieve the effect of destroying the enemy from the inside of the body. Within a few seconds, Thanos reappeared in front of Rog, standing at the top of the stairs and looking down at him. Plan A was declared a failure. Plan B began. After muttering in his heart, Rog took out the necessary prop ring to cast the portal magic in front of Thanos and put it on his right hand. After seeing Rog take out the ring, Thanos did not attack him but let him cast the portal magic. As his right hand continued to draw circles in the air, a circular portal with golden sparks appeared in front of Thanos and Luo Nan. When the portal was completely formed, Rog crushed the contact crystal given to him by the goddess of death Hela. Crushing the contact crystal was to tell Hela the location, and opening the portal was to let Hela come over as soon as possible. Of course, when Hela would come over, Rog himself was not sure. The entrance of the portal was the tent where he met Hela last time. From the scene at the other end of the portal, the tent was still there, but Hela was not in the tent. After inputting enough magic to maintain the portal for more than 10 minutes, Rog once again set his eyes on Thanos. Thanos would never watch him summon helpers, so before Hela arrived, it was still a fair one-on-one duel between him and Thanos. Mangekyo Sharingan, open. Chapter 577. We agreed to catch the top lane together, but you ran to steal the buff. Rog's mood at this time was like he had made an appointment with a jungler to catch the top laner, but the result was that his jungler never came. If it was in the game, at this time, he would silently label his jungler as a cheater, and then decisively return to his own defense tower and patiently wait for the next opportunity. But now he was not playing a game, and Thanos was not the kind of top laner who would foolishly wait for others to catch him. After seeing Rog's eyes turn from white to blood red, Thanos clenched his left hand. The power gem on the Infinity Glove emitted a faint purple light that was enough to make Rog pay attention. Thanos is going to use the power gem. Almost at the moment when the power gem lit up, Rog, who switched his Byakugan to Mangekyo Sharingan, used the signature fire release ninjutsu of the Uchiha clan. Immortal Art, Fire Release, Great Fireball. Under the buff of the Immortal Art chakra, Rog spouted a huge fireball with a diameter of more than 20 meters, like a small sun. The burning fireball flew like a cannonball to Thanos at the end of the stairs. Boom! However, this huge fireball didn't fly very far before it was hit by a purple beam of light that was as thick as an arm and as fast as lightning. It instantly exploded and turned into a cloud of sparks that filled the sky. Thanos did not use any fancy moves. He simply raised his left hand, and then casually threw a punch. Although the immortal art chakra mixed with natural energy was stronger than the ordinary chakra, in front of the universal treasure power gem, the energy level of chakra was still not enough. This was not the suppression of attributes like water suppressing fire or thunder suppressing earth, but a simpler and more helpless level suppression. The immortal art, great fireball was easily broken like a balloon, and Rog did not care too much. He never expected the great fireball to cause any damage to Thanos. What he needed was just the sight-blocking effect brought by the great fireball. After spitting out this huge fireball, he did not hesitate and quickly used the other two ninjutsu. Immortal technique, wood evasion, wood clone. Immortal technique, earth evasion, rock concealment. After leaving a wood clone that was enough to pass off as a real one to contain and lure Thanos, Rog himself relied on the rock concealment technique to sneak into the ground, like a groundhog shuttling quickly underground. Although Thanos's insight was not bad, it was not easy to distinguish between the wood clone and the original with the naked eye. As long as the wood clone can mislead Thanos for a while, he can take this opportunity to enter the palace where the supreme wisdom is located and rescue Gamora. Saving Gamora was originally just a side mission, but now, it had become a main mission. Only by controlling Gamora in his own hands could he fight for enough power to take the initiative. When Thanos sent Gamora to Supreme Intelligence, he did not expect Gamora to continue to keep the secret of the Soul Gem. As long as the Supreme Intelligence did not crash, the whereabouts of the Soul Gem would definitely be revealed. Although the location of the Soul Gem was exposed, Rog had a top-secret information that even Thanos and Gamora did not know about. The Soul Gem was an infinity stone that needed to be obtained by sacrificing one's love. Whether it was Gamora or Thanos, they did not know this before they met the paternity appraiser, Red Skull. So as long as he could rescue Gamora and control her in his hands, then even if Thanos knew the whereabouts of the Soul Gem, he would not be able to complete the sacrifice. Of course, if Thanos could immediately make a new love in a short time, it was also Thanos's ability. It didn't take much time, Rog sneaked to the bottom of the palace. To be precise, it was directly below Gamora's life signal. Although Rog, who was sneaking underground, did not know the specific situation of the wood clone and Thanos's fight, judging from the violent vibrations from the ground from time to time, their battle was not ordinary. After confirming that the wood clone was not at risk of being exposed for a while, he slowly rose from the ground like a ghost and came to the inside of the palace. In the empty palace, Gamora stood in the center of the palace like a puppet. On her body, there were glowing threads wrapped around her as if she was wrapped in some kind of nerve thread. Glancing at Gamora, who had her eyes closed and a look of rejection on her face, Rog stretched out his right hand and patted her shoulder gently. Flying Thor. Leaving the Flying Thor on Gamora was not to save her, but to prepare for the worst-case scenario. If it really came to the point where he had to kill Gamora, this Flying Thor could ensure that he could kill Gamora with the fastest speed. After leaving the Flying Thor on Gamora, Rog grabbed her shoulder and pulled her out forcibly. With those nerve lines disconnected one by one, Gamora slowly opened her eyes and looked at Rog with a painful expression. Having her mental connection forcefully severed by someone else was not a pleasant experience for Gamora, who was in the midst of connecting with the Supreme Intelligence. Although the experience was not pleasant, in any case, now she finally doesn't have to be forcibly searched by the Supreme Wisdom. I know you have a lot of questions now, but you only need to answer one of my questions now. Which planet is the Soul Gem? While asking Gamora, Rog did not stay idle, and his right hand with the hanging ring began to draw circles again. Womer, the Soul Gem is on Womer. Gamora did not hide anything and said quickly. Okay, I see, you can go now. After speaking, Rog gently pushed Gamora into the newly formed portal. Before Gamora could react, she had fallen into an abandoned planet that she was familiar with. Titan Star. Rog did not send Gamora back to the Golden Jack, but sent her directly to Titan Star. This is the communicator, contact Star-Lord yourself. When the portal shining with golden sparks was about to disappear, Rog's voice sounded again, and he threw out a black communicator. After doing all this, he turned his head to look at the empty hall above and said slowly, "The show is over, it's time to show your face." "When did you find out?" A voice with no gender at all sounded in the palace. At the same time, a virtual projection of a huge head appeared above the hall. "I found out not long after entering the Congress Hall. Your gaze was a bit too blatant." Chapter 578. This huge, light green head that didn't conform to the aesthetic standards of Earthlings was none other than the virtual projection of the ruler of the Carey Empire, the Supreme Intelligence. "I just casually glanced at you, I didn't expect you to notice." The Supreme Wisdom glanced at Logue and gave him a small compliment. "You didn't just casually glance at me. If I'm not wrong, you should have used no less than 3 methods to carefully check my condition." If the Supreme Intelligence didn't use so many methods to check, Rog might not have noticed his gaze. "It seems that Ronan's evaluation of you is still too low. Your threat level is at least 1 level higher than what he reported." The Supreme Intelligence used a completely different cold tone, as if he had changed into a different person. After a few seconds of silence, he continued, "Since you've noticed that I've been watching you, but you haven't done anything on your way here. Can you tell me what you're thinking? Who says I don't have a strategy? Me coming here to meet you personally is my strategy." The battle outside the palace continued, but Rog and the Supreme Intelligence didn't seem to notice the battle outside at all, ignoring the constant explosions and tremors. "Coming here to meet me is your strategy. You really are an interesting person." After hearing Rog's answer, the Supreme Intelligence seemed to have thought of something, and a surprised expression appeared on the virtual projection's head. After confirming that he was noticed by the Supreme Intelligence as soon as he entered the Capitol Hall, Rog began to think about how to face the ruler of the Carey Empire. In the process of thinking, he suddenly discovered a very interesting blind spot. The Supreme Intelligence was a life computer that represented the highest technology of the Carey Empire. Although from another point of view, he was a real special life form. But there was one thing that the Supreme Intelligence could never change, and that was that he didn't have a soul in the true sense. Rog, who had once raised the AI assistant Hinata and now the real person Hinata, had a deep understanding of this. Whether the Supreme Intelligence was the ruler of the Carey Empire or not, and no matter how many abilities he had, he would inevitably yearn for a true independent soul that belonged to him. This had nothing to do with the way of thinking or wisdom, it was purely an instinct of life to pursue completeness. On this point, Hinata, who was once an AI, showed an extreme desire for a real body. And for the Supreme Intelligence, this desire to return life to completeness evolved into a yearning for a soul. With that in mind, Rog made sense of everything that had happened. Why was he able to enter the heavily guarded Congress Hall so easily? Why did the Supreme Intelligence of the Carey Empire not react when he was fighting with Thanos? Why was he able to come here so easily and take away Gamora without any hindrance? Everything pointed to one obvious fact, which was that the Supreme Intelligence was also interested in the Soul Gem. Thanos wanted to obtain information about the Supreme Intelligence's ability, so he found Ronan's ability to use the Supreme Intelligence's ability to use his ability. For this reason, he reached an agreement with Luo Nan and obtained the help of the Supreme Intelligence. However, Thanos ignored one thing. In other words, he knew that the Supreme Intelligence would be interested in the Soul Gem, but he was not worried that the Supreme Intelligence would take away the Soul Gem. Perhaps Thanos was confident in his own strength, so he was not worried that the Supreme Intelligence would take away the Soul Gem. The Supreme Intelligence also saw this, but in front of Thanos, who had the Power Gem and had landed on the surface of Hara, the Supreme Intelligence did not dare to show his ambition. After all, the Power Gem was a true planet killer. At this critical moment, the arrival of Rog gave the Supreme Intelligence a chance to sit and watch the two tigers fight. Checking Rog's true state was to confirm whether Rog had the strength to fight Thanos head-on. Letting Rog take Gamora away so easily, on the one hand, to make the battle between Rog and Thanos more intense, on the other hand, it was to let them leave Hara. No matter who the final winner was, with the whereabouts of the Soul Gem and the supreme intelligence of the Carry Empire's army, they could occupy the absolute initiative. Even in the worst case, it was nothing more than sending the Carry Empire's army to besiege Rog and Thanos. You are also a very interesting computer. Among the artificial intelligence, you are the most ambitious one. For the Carry people, the supreme intelligence was their monarch and a great existence that they needed to respect at all times. But for Rog, the supreme intelligence was an advanced life computer, which was no different from the artificial intelligence coded by Tani. You are the first person who dares to talk to me in this tone on Hara. The Supreme Intelligence's tone became extremely cold, and energy machine guns hidden in the dark suddenly rose in the empty hall, and the muzzles were all aimed at Rog without exception. Although he was indeed a life computer, the Supreme Intelligence was extremely disgusted by others who associated him with those inferior artificial beings. As far as he was concerned, this was a blatant insult. Rog was not surprised by the Supreme Intelligence's reaction. This was the same as humans, in a strict sense, were also apes, but they did not like to be treated as animals. Okay, you don't have to put on such a look to intimidate me. If you have the ability, open the door of the palace. I guess Thanos wouldn't mind having a good chat with you. Thanos may not mind the Supreme Intelligence having some thoughts about the Soul Gem, but he absolutely could not tolerate the Supreme Intelligence's behavior of giving Gamora to Rog in order to let him fight with Rog. In Thanos's eyes, what was true love? It was that this person could only be killed by him. Except for himself, anyone who tried to hurt his true love would suffer his cruelest revenge. In this regard, the original ruler of Saga Star, Gao Tianzuan, was a good example. Gao Tianzuan just treated Gamora as a slave gladiator and arranged a fight for her, and then lost the Saga Star that he had been operating for many years. He could only leave Saga Star like a defeated hound. Rog's voice full of disdain slowly sounded in the hall, but the Supreme Intelligence did not show any signs of shooting or opening the door of the palace. If you don't have the courage to shoot, don't take out the gun. Not only will it not make you look domineering, but it will also reveal your weakness and timidity. Chapter 579. Since the ridicule has already begun, there is no need to continue to give the other party face. Anyway, he won't be in the Kree Empire in the future, so it's not a big deal to offend him. Looking at the fearless Rog, Supreme Wisdom wondered for the first time if there was something wrong with his big data calculations. The current development is not the situation he wanted at all. According to his plan, Rog should now be chased by the angry Thanos, not Rog. Generally speaking, there is no big problem with Supreme Wisdom's calculations, and there is no big loophole in the plan he made. However, he ignored a very important point, that is, Rog is not a person who can be easily guessed. S.H.I.E.L.D. and the U.S. military have made similar calculations, but it turns out that the results of their calculations are only the results they think are the results. If Supreme Wisdom can go to Earth and investigate Rog's past, then he will find that Rog is a person who often does not play by the rules. What's more troublesome is that Rog is also a transmigrator with a prophet aura. In this case, some of the decisions he makes, in the eyes of others, are completely madmen. Just say it, what do you want now? After confirming that he could not arrange Rog as a chess piece, Supreme Wisdom immediately changed his strategy, and his tone was relatively soft, and he was no longer so aggressive. Don't worry, I don't want much, and it's not difficult for you. Do you see the portal outside? The helper in my plan made some small mistakes and didn't rush over immediately. So if you don't mind, I hope you can contain the Thanos outside before my helper arrives. Of course, this is also for the safety of Hala. You don't want to see the scene of Thanos destroying Hala with the power gem. After sending Gamora to Titan Star, Rog has gradually regained the initiative of the battle. As long as Hela arrived at Hala, he could start executing his Titan Star plan. I can let Luo Nan and the Empire's warriors contain Thanos Overlord, but I hope that after your helper arrives, you can take Thanos Overlord away from Hala. The Supreme Wisdom agreed to Rog's request. But in return, he also raised his own request. No problem. As for the matter of taking Slayer Overlord away from Hara, I can handle it myself. Although Rog didn't agree with the culture and system of the Carey Empire, he still had a good impression of them. After all, the virtual reality console games produced by the Kree Empire were very much to his taste and allowed him to have a lot of fun. Deal. After saying that, the holographic projection of the Supreme Intelligence that was floating above the hall instantly disappeared, and the entire hall became empty again. Thanos would never have thought that just when he thought he was fighting with Rog, the real Rog actually reached an agreement with Supreme Wisdom to deal with him together. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Thanos Overlord may also know this, but he would never have thought that he would become the common enemy of Rog and Supreme Wisdom. All of this was the fault of the Soul Gem. Yes, it was the fault of the Soul Gem. After coming to an agreement with the Supreme Intelligence, Rog no longer had any plans to continue staying in the palace. After sensing the Flying Thunder God technique of the Wood Clone, he immediately cast the Flying Thunder God technique and left the palace. At this time, Thanos Overlord was using the power of the Power Gem to destroy the Susanoo cast by the Wood Clone. He didn't know how many times he had broken Susanoo's armor, but no matter how he beat up the ancient giant like Susanoo, the Wood Clone standing inside Susanoo's head was able to quickly repair the injuries on Susanoo, as if it would never get tired, and continued to attack and defend against him. Just when Thanos Overlord was considering whether to increase the energy output of the Power Gem to solve this giant like Susanoo in one go, he suddenly found that there were two Rogs in the head of Susanoo. This is... Although Thanos Overlord didn't realize that it was the Wood Clone who was fighting with him before, he reacted immediately after seeing the two Rogs appear at the same time. Not good. Something went wrong. Although Thanos Overlord didn't know what happened, his intuition told him that the development of things had begun to go in a direction that was unfavorable to him. Almost at the moment when he realized this, Ronan, who had been acting as a spectator, waved the Warhammer in his hand and attacked him like lightning. Ronan's attack completely confirmed Thanos Overlord's guess. Without any hesitation, Thanos Overlord decisively changed the trajectory of his attack. The attack that was originally aimed at Susanoo was aimed at Ronan, who was attacking like lightning. Compared with the attack from the enemy, Thanos Overlord hated the betrayal from his teammates more. The arm-thick purple light instantly cut through the distance of space and came in front of Ronan, who was fully armed. Time Shift Domain. Although Ronan had never fought with the owner of the Power Gem, as someone who had tried to collect the Power Gem, he was very clear about the power of the Power Gem. In the face of Thanos Overlord's attack, he decisively displayed his most powerful killing move. When the Time Shift Domain took effect, the world in front of Ronan's eyes suddenly changed. The whole world completely stopped as if the stop button was pressed. In this world that seemed to be completely frozen, Ronan changed his forward direction, avoiding the lightning-like zigzag light, and came in front of the stilled Thanos Overlord. He raised the grayish-black Warhammer high, and the direction of the Warhammer was falling was the thick and round purple head of Thanos Overlord. If Ronan's hammer could hit smoothly, then it would save a lot of effort whether it was for Supreme Wisdom or Rog. If the power of this hammer was strong enough, it was even possible to put an end to Thanos Overlord's life ahead of time and completely end this battle. The idea was beautiful, but the reality was cruel. Although Thanos Overlord couldn't detect the attack launched by Ronan in the Time Shift Domain, as a powerhouse whose combat strength was only a line away from the Heavenly Father level, Thanos Overlord was obviously not the kind of existence that would be instantly ended by others' killing move. Just when the Warhammer in Ronan's hand was about to hit Thanos Overlord's big head, giving Thanos Overlord a heavy blow or even directly killing him. The effect of the time shift domain disappeared, and the eternal time began to flow again. Chapter 580. Time movement domain is one of the few powerful moves that involve the power of time, and it can even be regarded as a divine skill. However, any skill has its own limitations, and the most fundamental rules of a world will not allow things without any defects to exist. Even a universal treasure like Infinity Stone needs to operate according to established rules, and it cannot completely ignore the rules. As a powerful move born by chance, the limitation of the time shift domain was that this move could only achieve a certain miraculous dodging and movement effect by relatively extending one's own timeline. If Luo Nan wants to use time movement domain to defeat the enemy, he must let his relatively extended time return to normal in order to achieve a realistic attack. Therefore, after using time movement domain to avoid Thanos' attack and preparing to smash Thanos' head with a hammer, he took the initiative to end time movement domain and let his timeline return to normal. The hammerhead of the Warhammer is only a short distance away from Thanos' head, which is also the best distance calculated by Luo Nan. If his calculations are correct, even if he ends time movement domain, Thanos will not be able to escape his thunderous hammer. However, it turns out that the reason why Thanos can become a destiny, in a sense, is not because of his racial origin, nor his power, but because of his own strength. Just when the hammerhead of the omnipotent weapon Warhammer was about to hit his head, Thanos made a move that Luo Nan and Rog did not expect. In a split second, Thanos gave up using the Infinity Gloves to control the energy of the Power Gem, but directly guided the energy of the Power Gem to himself. He forcibly accommodated the energy of the Power Gem with his own flesh and blood. In another timeline, Star-Lord and others of the Universe Awkward Dance Troupe had teamed up to do this scene. It was also using this crazy move that Star-Lord and others saved Xander in that world. It's just that unlike the passive accommodation method adopted by Star-Lord and others, Thanos used active guidance at this time. Rog knows that Thanos' physical strength is very high, and he also knows that Thanos' physical body has been developed to its limit. But when he witnessed the scene of Thanos actively guiding the energy of the Power Gem into his body, he couldn't help but feel shocked. Crazy Titan, worthy of its reputation. The Warhammer in Luo Nan's hand finally fell, and it hit Thanos' head as he planned. However, the outcome of Warhammer hitting Thanos was completely different from what he imagined. Under the endless thunder attack of Warhammer, Thanos' Overlord's purple head shone with purple light. This seemingly soft purple light gave the Thanos' head an unparalleled defense. At this moment, Thanos' head seemed to possess an absolute defense, in the true sense. It blocked Luo Nan's sure-kill hammer without any suspense. The Strength Gem's limitless physical strength was perfectly demonstrated at this moment. The hammer fell, and the hammer shattered. The supreme accuser of the Carry Empire's accusation team, Luo Nan, had completely lost his famous weapon, the omnipotent weapon Warhammer, after unleashing this thunderous hammer strike. What Luo Nan had lost right now wasn't just the weapon that had accompanied him in battle for many years. He had also lost his right hand that held the hammer. The purple glow on Thanos' head followed the Warhammer to Luo Nan's right arm. When the purple light spread to his entire right arm, the silent and irresistible disintegration was completed in an instant. Luo Nan's right arm turned into nothingness together with the Warhammer. His entire body was blown away like a falling feather. With Luo Nan's landing, the purple glow on Thanos' body also disappeared, as if it had never appeared. This was too overbearing. Rog knew that the Strength Gem was very powerful, and he also knew that the Strength Gem was very compatible with Thanos. It could be said to be Thanos' soul mate. But the scene in front of him still gave him an extremely unrealistic feeling. This was simply giving Thanos an invincible hack that locked down his health, and it was the type that wasn't afraid of being banned. How the hell was he going to fight this? Just when Rog was considering whether to temporarily retreat a distance and hand over the task of restraining Thanos to the Kari Empire's warriors, a perfectly straight and slender right leg stepped out of the portal. Goddess of Death Hela. The only queen of Jotunheim and Muspelheim. The helper that Rog personally invited and paid 3 promises to get, appeared at the moment when Luo Nan was heavily injured. They were finally here. His teammates were finally here. Rog never thought that there would be a day when he would be so eager for Hela to appear. At this moment, he seemed to see the brilliant light emitted by an enemy crystal named Thanos after it was shattered. With the addition of a familiar dubbing, it was a classic victory scene. While Rog was thinking, Hela, who was wearing a dark green battle suit, looked at Thanos not far away, and Rog, who was inside Susanu's head. Then, under the gaze of Thanos and Rog, Hela's wrist gently turned and summoned 2 black swords that exuded a cold light. Without any explanation, after confirming that this was the battlefield where Thanos and Rog were fighting, Hela immediately launched an attack on Thanos. As for Luo Nan, who was lying on the ground covering his right arm, she directly ignored him. Hela's arrival made Thanos's calm face reveal a dignified expression. After seeing that Hela did not hesitate to attack him, Thanos once again entered a pure battle state. Whether it was Thanos with amazing physical strength or Hela who controlled the power of death, they were all loyal close combat enthusiasts. At least before seeing the opportunity to determine the victory in one fell swoop, they all liked to use close combat to test the opponent's level. In the blink of an eye, Hela, who was like a dark green ghost, was entangled with Thanos. Purple and golden fists were constantly swinging, and the black sword condensed by the power of death drew a fatal and beautiful arc. Seeing that Thanos and Hela directly skipped the preparation process and entered the close combat stage, Rog removed the ancient giant like Susanu, and his right hand once again drew a circle. The actors were all ready, and it was time to put on a good show. With the position of Thanos and Hela as the center, a circular portal with a diameter of tens of meters appeared on the ground, opening a space channel directly to Titan Star. Titan Star was the place of the final battle. Chapter 581. If it was under normal circumstances, Thanos Overlord could leave before the portal opened and avoid this golden portal that was not so sudden. But now, he could only watch as the portal opened beneath his feet. Although Thanos controlled the power gem at this time, in close combat, he did not have much advantage over the goddess of death, Hela. More than 2,000 years ago, Hela had the strength that even Odin, the father of gods, felt troublesome. After more than 2,000 years of cultivation and improvement, Hela's strength was far beyond the period when she was exiled by Odin. Although she can't quickly kill Thanos who has the power gem, it's not difficult for her to contain Thanos Lord. Under the influence of Titan Star's chaotic gravity, Thanos and Hela fell to the surface of Titan Star together and came to this lost world that once had a prosperous civilization. After teleporting Thanos and Hela to Titan Star, Rog, as the initiator, did not hesitate and immediately used the body flicker technique to enter the portal that was about to disappearing in front of Ronan, who had not yet fully reacted. After returning to his hometown, Thanos took the initiative to end the close combat between him and Hela, relying on the energy impact of the power gem to open up a small distance. After looking around at the surrounding environment, Thanos frowned slightly and said slowly to Rog, who had just landed on the ground, "Is this your plan? Gamora should have been taken away by you now, right? This is your hometown, and it is also the place where you gave birth to the idea of destroying half of the life in the universe. I think you shouldn't mind putting an end to everything here." Rog did not answer Thanos's inquiry about Gamora's whereabouts, but only told Thanos why he chose Titan Star as the final battlefield. "You really know me well, but your explanation just proves one of my guesses." Thanos looked at Rog with a complicated expression and said slowly. "What guess?" Rog asked very cooperatively. "You are not from this universe, you are from an unknown parallel universe. Only in this way can you explain all the unreasonable phenomena that have happened to you. Although there was no evidence, Thanos' overlord firmly believed that his guess was correct. This was both a kind of intuition and the final result after many calculations. Parallel universe? I have to say, your imagination is quite rich. Although there were only 3 of them here, Rog still did not intend to reveal his true identity. This kind of thing, even if the Ancient One knows about it, after all, there is no way to hide it from the Ancient One who controls the time gem. But to others, he would never admit this even if he was beaten to death. It doesn't matter if you don't admit it. As long as you fall into my hands, I will prove it sooner or later. At this time, Thanos seemed to have completely defeated Rog, and said with a tone that was almost like a statement. I'm sorry, I have no intention of letting myself fall into the hands of a man. I will never let such a thing become a reality. As soon as he finished speaking, Rog summoned the reality Rubik's Cube from the summon scroll. For this decisive battle, he had taken out the magic cube from the Supreme Harmony Treasure Hall and carried it with him in the channeling scroll. Only magic can fight against magic. Similarly, only Infinity Stone can fight against Infinity Stone. The ether particle is really in your hands. Odin is actually willing to give this treasure to you. It seems that he has a lot of expectations for you. After that, Thanos raised his left hand, and the golden infinity glove shone with the purple light of the power gem. No way, I have a good character. Unlike you, you can give up everything for the Infinity Stone. When the power gem shone with purple light, the reality Rubik's Cube in Rog's hand also shone with a strange red light. Although the reality gem is not as simple and crude as the power gem, in terms of strangeness, the reality gem can throw the power gem by several streets. Just when Thanos and Rog were at each other's throats, and the battle between Infinity Stones against Infinity Stones could break out at any time, the goddess of death Hela, who was standing next to Rog, looked at them with displeasure. As a queen, a real queen with strength, ambition, and beauty, Hela hates the feeling of being ignored. Since they came to Titan Star, Thanos and Rog were like 2 unromantic purebred straight men, completely ignoring her existence. This was an extremely unpleasant thing for Hela, who had the temperament and strength of a queen. So, when Thanos and Rog showed off their Infinity Stones, Hela directly launched an attack on Thanos. This time, Hela did not attack Thanos with her sword in both hands like she did when she first appeared. Instead, she released her divine power of death in an extremely ostentatious manner. She condensed the divine power of death into an extremely huge black blade and flew towards Thanos from all angles on the ground and in the air. Hela's sudden attack instantly broke the confrontation between Thanos and Rog. Almost at the same time, the power gem in the Infinity Glove and the reality gem in the reality Rubik's Cube lit up at the same time, showing their respective powers. Thanos' use of the power gem was as simple and crude as ever. When the hundreds of large and small black blades attacked him, he did not use the power gem to perform any fancy counterattack or defense, but with himself as the center, he created a purple tornado completely formed by the energy of the power gem. Whether it was the attack from the ground or the black blades falling from the sky like raindrops, when they touched this purple tornado, they all turned into nothingness and instantly returned to the most primitive and purest form of energy. With just a simple energy tornado, Thanos' overlord resolved Hela's large area of effect attack that was enough to clear the field. The power gem once again proved its value as a universal treasure with facts. Thanos' move to resolve Hela's attack was indeed beautiful, but Hela was not the only enemy he was facing now. Just at the moment when Thanos just used the energy tornado to resolve Hela's attack, Rog's attack came. Change reality. The tornado containing the overbearing energy of the power gem had not yet dissipated, and a strange red light appeared in every corner of the tornado. Along with the demonic red light, the purple energy tornado instantly changed its appearance. At this time, Thanos, who was in the eye of the tornado, saw hundreds of millions of small black blades with a length of only a few millimeters. You're tuning in to the Unparalleled SwordWill YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.